began being used in that particular time period and not in the 17th time period. And if you don't like that, we can go to Britannica. In antiquity, the Greeks are said to have called the continent Libya, and the Romans, who we were just talking about, to have called it Africa, right? So let's just put some things to bed about the naming of Africa. It was real enough. Let me put up that source again, right? But my point is, in general, why I'm looking for the source, because I really didn't come here to teach. I really came here to say, Sister Shatter, you're looking at a sister that is full. When you're full, you know which questions to ask, and not just ask questions just to find loopholes in established information, right? If you don't like it, that's fine. You don't like it, but say that you're going against established information.
Could you please give them 1 more minute left for Sister Freedom to respond?
You don't run this show.
I'm asking so Sister Freedom
You
can
don't run.
respond to what you
You
just
don't run
said. Then
this
you can
show.
go.
Come on, y'all. Let's keep it respectful. Reggie,
Actually, he said that if we had
Reggie.
a problem with anyone, we could just ask them to leave.
That
I'm
I
not
did
asking you to
them
go,
that
Brother
earlier.
Reggie. I'm
Reggie, I did
asking
say
for
that
you to end your one point so Sister Freedom can respond, because I'm going to respond to your first point. Then you can speak again about Sister Shatter after that.
All right,
I
let's
think
keep
there
it.
are other guests that can
Reggie,
respond to what I'm having. What
hold
I have.
on, hold on for a
No,
minute.
I will.
Yo, y'all got to stop now. Y'all got to respect the host now. I did tell them when they first got on that this is their show, and everybody that get their show, they can say who they want to respond or who not, Reggie. That's it. That's all. We ain't arguing. We don't want to get no argument.
No problem. I think I've said enough. I'll watch the chat. No, and I respect you, Sanetta, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit through. I'm not going to sit through people dismantling things that we know as facts that we build on.
Great job. Great job.
Right.
Great job.
But continue with your
Don't go nowhere though, Reggie. Stay right here.
Reggie, thank you so much for the kind words. I too learned from Dr. Leonard Jeffries as I was a part of the African Poetry Theater here in Queens. And so I have definitely been enriched with some great brothers and sisters in this movement in space. I love the Professor Smalls. I love Kaba. I love, y'all know the family. And so I think that it's really based on how much information you have access to, and how far you dig back. And so I respect where they're coming from with, oh, well, did you find a family in Africa? But I technically don't have to, based on the same science you're using to find your lineage. And that was my point.
No, I definitely heard. I'm responding.
Well, Sister Freedom, if you could go ahead and talk about the Africa point that he was making, and then we'll talk about the Jeremy.
You're gonna have to let me respond then, Reggie. Earlier, since Reggie,
came at what she said too.
Okay, yeah, since Brother Reggie came out like he did so boastfully earlier, me and you talked. Am I correct to say this? Right? Me and you talked, right, Reggie?
And that's one of the reasons why I made the point.
No, excuse me. You just talked and I ain't say nothing.
Excuse me,
so
dear.
let me talk. Let me talk.
We sat back and listened to you. We have to listen to all your rants, Brother Reggie.
Now, back to what I was saying. Okay. When we talked earlier, Brother Reggie read the exact same thing that I just said. Okay. We got off the phone. Okay. And what you said to me was, Sister Freedom, I don't want to argue with you online. Okay. You read the late 1700s, just like what I did. So I don't know why you're getting on here making it seem like I'm lying or I'm saying something that anybody just can't go right on Google and look up. Now, you said you might have some other information that you might want me to see, but we didn't get a chance for you to talk and give me the information that you just stated right now. but yet you came on here popping like, like I'm lying. Like you didn't read the same exact thing that I read. And I don't think that that's fair. And you, for one, owe me an apology.
No, you ain't getting no apology.
But guess what? I don't care that you don't give me one.
You don't ask for one.
I don't care that you do, but you do. But you need to.
Everybody,
And to follow back on Sister Freedom.
Everybody stop. Sister Freedom, from right here on in, go ahead and respond to information. No longer calling out each other's name. Just go ahead and respond to the information. Deal with that. Go ahead, Sister Freedom. You can still go ahead and talk. Deal with the information, Freedom. Go ahead.
I don't like show off. But anyway, back to when I was talking to you, Shatter. Or do you want to say something else, Dulcinea, concerning that situation?
Yeah, I did want to say something else about the point that he's making, because it's important when we're saying this, we're saying that it's based in the same science, it's based in the same history, and it's not. When Sister Freedom is saying when Africa was used from the scattered of Africa, she's bringing up history. She's bringing up primary sources. When Brother Reggie is bringing up a source from a white boy at an institution that majored in Greek history, it's a recent study. So it's the same thing that Shatter is saying. You're using the same DNA to show that you're linked to Africa that I'm using to show I'm linked to the cousin. That is not incorrect, sis. You're using a white man that will come and write a book and say, based on autosomal DNA, based on primary sources, I can make this assumption about 11,000 years ago in the 19th, 20th, 21st century. It's not the same. It can't be compared. And though it makes it seem smart, because it's like, well, I have this PhD, and even though he wrote this book in 2011, he should be as credible as the source of the convention in 1785. He's not. He's an actual university scholar from 2011 writing what he surmises about history, and Sister Freedom is bringing up a primary source of something that actually happened within history. And that's what we have a lot of. We're having a lot of people arguing the actual history. We have a lot of people arguing the actual science. We have a lot of people arguing the actual studies of things that we have primary sources, evidence for, and they're going on beliefs and saying they have credible sources for people that are giving their opinions in the 20th and 21st century. So when you have this person, Jeremy McInerney, that is just a Berkeley PhD classics literature, that's what he got his degree in, nothing in anthropology, nothing in archaeology, nothing that would give him the actual history of things. Now we would ask you, what is the actual civilization that called themselves Africans during the Roman Empire?
Let me share my screen again. Okay, so now, before I share my screen, it seems to me when I've seen you debate, right, you use sources from Europeans, especially your scientific sources. So now when I show you a source who is a specialist in the word in Africa, then all of a sudden you call him a name, right? Based on his race. But we speak English, right? And some of us have an education. And what we do with it is we look at the sources, and then if we have skill sets, then what we do is in fact research it further, right? That's what we do. Now, when I spoke to Sister Freedom earlier on the phone,
I never just asked me not to say
I spoke to Sister Freedom,
you don't need to say mom.
Reggie,
when I spoke to Sister Freedom,
hold on, Reggie. Don't even bring up her name. Just go ahead and teach, Reggie. Just teach, brother. Please. That's it. Go ahead. Go ahead, Reggie. You got the floor. Just teach.
When I was talking earlier about this word Africa, right? I said that there are sources and then there are reliable sources. Reliable, you can Google anything, but then you have to check the source in which you're using. I have a skill set that allows me to search the best sources for things. In this particular case on Africa, right? I know that they was using the term in the Roman providences that they created in Africa. I also know that the Englishman, right? The Spanish man stood on top of Greek geographers. So I would go back to scholars that studied what the Greek geographers like Ptolemy would say. And then I would go even as far as to look for areas and providences from primary and secondary sources to show that what they were saying was correct. On this show, I did not expect her to bring up something that we already discussed that wasn't flushed out to her. And so to the audience that I represent, that I participate in, that I thought that after she said that I would pull up a source. Now a PhD, right, who specialized on the subject in university publication, an academic publication, that is just his opinion. Now, people, what I was really saying about Sister Shatter was that she searched her beliefs. She got on a plane to see, right? To see how those people on the continent treated her, right? To see if those people there, without doing a direct genealogy, finding herself in Africa, right? If the mothers, the fathers of that place would see her as their own, right? A child. And
Sonetta,
conversation was that. How can I be interrupted when I'm talking about Sister Shatter at this moment?
Reggie, on my nerves.
I don't understand. Now we live in a world, and I'm gonna stop. I am gonna stop because I'm upset. We live in a world where we have makeup artists. Makeup artist is that when I ask now for a source, when I ask for a source for the naming of Africa, and you don't give it to me, then I win. I win if my source is better than your source. I win. Now, you don't have to believe. That's not what you have to do. What we ask on these channels when we deal with people who said, like last night, that the brownstones in Brooklyn were built by the Abos.
What?
Stop.
We need
What?
sources for that. When I know that they lived in longhouses and teepees and they were migratory, but they built brownstones. The brownstones in Brooklyn, they built. Tomorrow I will be coming on to address that.
All right. Thank you, Brother Reggie. All right. Let me get on over to the
Sister Freedom has the source.
Every time I say
She has
something,
the source.
I've been cut off, muted up, all kinds of stuff, just to let somebody.
And please, let's be fair, because Brother
I
Reggie
mean, it
goes
hasn't
10
been fair
minutes.
since I've been up
Freedom,
here.
you got a source? You got a source, Freedom?
You know what I'm gonna do, Dulcinea? We'll talk about this on Unscrambled Minds because I don't like the disrespect. So what I'm gonna do is leave.
You
Peace,
don't
Sister
want
Freedom. We'll definitely talk about it later.
to. Okay.
Well, I don't want anybody to feel disrespected. I didn't. Sonetter's being fair to everyone. Everyone's
Yeah.
getting equally treated. And Sister Freedom, we're sorry, but you did not get disrespected.
No, not over here.
Yeah, it's always respect. So
It was just that Brother Reggie was cutting her off, and we all sat back at least 10 minutes. And every time he has a monologue, we sit back and let him speak. But I get it. He feels like he has bigger credentials than everybody on the panel. So sometimes that makes him feel like he should be allowed to cut in when he feels like someone has misinformation. But she was cut off. She wasn't allowed to speak her piece. She wasn't allowed to give
Well,
any
she had
sources.
an
And
opportunity to
that's
come back,
something that's
and she
unfortunate.
decided to get off. She could have stayed on and spoke.
Yeah,
Right.
but she's already mad by that point. You got to understand.
Okay.
And I appreciate Brother Reggie coming in, because from what I saw, he sat back. He was he always has decorum. And whether or not he agrees with me, he's always been respectful with information. Nonetheless, I wanted to just jump in. I know I'm kind of jumping the line, but I want to say peace to Sister Shatter. You are really a breath of fresh air.
You can speak.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you're a breath of fresh air. I like to see a sister who really has information and stands on information. We can't pick and choose when it comes to, we can't say we use science and history on some things and archaeology, and then when it doesn't fit our narrative, we reject it. I'm going to sit back because I have a question about this pyramid that Dulcinea talked about being the oldest pyramid, older than the pyramids in Kemet. But I'll sit back, and if Freedom wants to come back, Sonetter, I'll wait. I can keep waiting.
Yes, say what you want to say, Nepal. You got a question?
Okay.
You want to?
Well, Dulcinea, you had mentioned a pyramid in Peru. I did a little research on it because it didn't sound like I wasn't sure, but correct me if I'm wrong. I think you said they've discovered a pyramid that's older than some of the pyramids in Kemet. Are you referring to this pyramid that I've in my research found? It's called the let's see here, the Corral Supe.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it says that it doesn't say that it's older than any pyramid in Kemet. Can you just maybe elaborate, or maybe you want to rephrase that?
Yeah, so what you're seeing as far as it is, at first they said the Kemet pyramids were older than the ones that were found in Peru, and then scientists came out and retested and said, no, that's not as true. They're just as old as the Kemetic pyramids. Well, there's been recent studies as far as where they're looking into carbon-14 of those pyramids, and they're saying they could be older than what they even thought previously.
Okay, so there's no information as of yet saying that they're older, because yes, I've seen that there's information saying they may be as old, if not a little bit. The pyramid, the Djoser, the pyramid of Saqqara, is at this point considered to be the oldest pyramid in the world. And so I just wanted to talk to you. I just wanted to clear that up for anyone who's listening. There is no pyramid in the Americas that is older than a pyramid in Kemet as of now. And the same research is being done with the pyramids in Kemet. They're not solid on exactly how old the pyramids are in Kemet, but there is definite information that the pyramid in Saqqara is the oldest pyramid in the world. Okay, so I just wanted to add that. I'll sit back.
Yeah, it's the same carbon dating tools that they're using to saying that it's just as old or even older. So they're not having more definite tools or a different kind of science to say this is that, this is this. Again, we get back to perspective, because it's the same science. And that's where I say that it's important that we understand the tools that they're even using because that's why people get to just say, oh, well, it's the same tool when it's autosomal DNA, but then they don't have to understand autosomal DNA. It's the same tool when it's carbon dating, even though they don't have to understand the difference between carbon dating through the other tools, whether they're looking into how old the structure is or how much radiation the structure has had to date it. So it's important just to understand these tools, and there's nothing that's saying definitively that we have the best tool for dating back and the Kemetic tool is older. No, carbon dating is saying that the Peru is just as old, if not older.
It
than
doesn't
the
say
Kemetic.
if not, wait,
Can
it
you
doesn't say
show the
if
source?
not older. Excuse me, Shatter. It doesn't say if not older. They're saying that they are possibly the same age, or they're it's just as old. There's no evidence at all saying if not older. But I'm sorry I interrupted you, Shatter.
No, I was gonna say, if she could share that source where she found it, because just even a quick Google search will still say that that's not right. And I wanted to know, is it the oldest in South America? Is that what it's saying, or does it really mean the oldest in the world? That's why I wanted to know the source so I could just read it for myself.
All right, all right. Let me move right along to get somebody else that want to say something. Brother Lai, you in the building? You want to speak, brother?
Peace and blessings to everybody on the panel. Salam, Dotanet.
Oh, sorry. Salam, Brother La.
Yeah, I mean, to impound somewhat on what Sister Freedom was saying, since she's not on the panel, I'm really not going to speak on it. I also want to reiterate on what Paul was speaking about in regards for Reggie. The problem is Reggie being surgical with his research and his information, and some folks can't handle it. Let's just call it for what it is.
Yes.
Beyond that, I heard you say something in regards to something in Africa in regards to was Wolof, a place or charity of some sort. You were speaking about those in there?
No, Shatter was speaking about the ability as far as to go and teach around Africa, and you can go and get assistance with traveling, with your living expenses, with food and different things like that. And there's a program called called Wolof, that they actually help with people going and teaching the kids English and farming and different things like that. They'll help make the flights cheaper, as well as help you with having resources of where to live and eat amongst Africa if you want to travel there.
Yeah, because is there a link or some information on it? Because last that I knew, Wolof was the actual language of the people spoken in Senegal, Gambia, and other places as well. I didn't know it would be
Yeah,
a
there
travel
is. I can
language.
give you the resource of a person too that you would want to find. I can give you that. I'll give you that off here though. For the people that want to do that, there's people that you can reach out to that actually go do this. They're about that life.
And
So
it's named, and
it's
it's
called an
named,
unschooling process, and they take their kids around the world and they go and utilize these for resources. So it's going to be best for me to point you to their direction because they can give you the best resources of how to travel and do that if that's something you want to do around Africa.
no, the reason why I asked is I was going to ask you to put it, if possible, if you was able to put it up here so everyone can see it. Because like I said, and I reiterate, Wolof is not a travel agency. Wolof is an actual language.
Yeah,
Hello?
travel around West Africa teaching English and how to farm and different things like that, and they name the organization Wolof.
After the actual language. Okay.
Yes.
All right. You good, Brother La?
Yeah, I'm right, man.
All right, let me move on over to my brother Moses 777. What up, Moses?
Hey, peace, blessings, love, and light of Yah the Most High. shine down on and in the lives of all the creators, righteous children, resurrecting as gods on earth. Ancestors protection be around you, Sarnetta. Ancestors protection be around everybody that has a African consciousness. Sister Shatter, ancestors, ancient African ancestors inside of me are giving you a lot of praises. And I know she's not on the platform, and I usually have a theory that we don't talk about people when they're not present.
Freedom is right here. She's there.
Okay, all right, because ancient African ancestors inside of me was on that same frequency that Brother Reggie was on. So let me reiterate my position, man, when it comes down to like this Bible stuff. And mainly I be coming from the Ethiopian Coptic Bible, you know, that has the Book of Enoch in it, and the Book of Enoch is taking place over in East Africa. But let me just say this: I teach the Bible from African. What's that?
Before you say this, let me remind the panel. I don't want no disrespect, but understand this is the toughest environment to be in. That's all I want to tell you. If you come in with truth, don't get mad at the truth. Debunk the source. Debunk what he's saying or what she's saying. And if we can't do that, let's not get upset and get mad at each other. Go ahead, Moses.
All right. Okay, so I don't think it'll be any disrespect, but we're going to see what happens after I finish saying what ancestors told me to say. So I teach the Bible from an African perspective, and what I teach is Black liberation theology. So in this theology, it teaches that there are two types of Black women from Eden. Eden is also known as Africa. There's the loyal daughters, and then there's the daughters that are traitors to Africa. Matthew chapter 25, it talks about these virgins. There's 5 of them that have oil in their lamps, and they sitting ready because the ancestral voices inside of them are telling them that their kingdom is going to resurrect. And then there's another 5 that heard the ancestral stories, but they don't have no oil in their lamps, and they're not really ready. So Revelation chapter 12 represents sisters like Sister Shatter, who has an allegiance to Africa from what we can see. And then you got Revelations chapter 17 that talks about these African daughters who riding on the back of a beast, these traitors, these ones that are comfortable in their captivity. All right, so with that being said, Sister Freedom, as a Black woman, can you explain what you are attempting to free yourself from and why? Another question: what is a gatekeeper?
One at a time. One at a time.
All right, it's the only reason I was going through all of these questions, because normally I only get to ask people one question, then y'all take off, man. So I'm just going to ask this one question. If I can ask woman, can you explain what you are attempting to free yourself from and why?
I don't know what you mean by that when you say free myself from. Free myself from what? What do you mean?
Okay, so your name is Sister Freedom. Why is your name Sister Freedom?
Because that's what my name is.
And so you are trying to free yourself from something? Is that why your name is?
Wait a minute. You ask me a question, so I'm asking you why you're asking me that question. Have I said something that is making you ask me that question? Because, okay, what did I say?
Okay, all right. So I guess that leads me to my next question then. So, Sister Freedom, a council of Black women are biblical gods.
What I said.
All right. So once again, well, I mean, I was watching, your whole discussion with Sister Shatter, and your discussion with Brother Reggie, and you're with your name being Sister Freedom, and we are here in this white supremacist construct. It seems like your stance is you're not really trying to free yourself from a white supremacist construct. You don't have no affinity with Africa because it sounds like
there is. So what did I say? Did I say something bad about Africa? Did I say I didn't have any African roots? What did I say that make you ask me that question?
Your entire rebuttal when it
was
comes
my
down to
fault?
Africa. Like
I
like
asked Shatter, and Shatter said the exact same thing that I said. She found her roots in America's soil, and I asked her, did she? And I asked her, didn't tell her she didn't. I asked her, did you find any of your family in Africa? She said no. Okay, so I said the same thing, but I also said I never denied that I could be African descent. I didn't say I was African. I said I might have African in me that would make me African descent. So I'm trying to figure out what I said that's making you think that I need to free myself from something.
okay, also, all right, so you said,
wait a minute, is it the fact that I said that I have roots from this land? And I didn't specify that I know I have roots from Africa too? I mean, what is making you say that?
yeah. So what you were saying on other shows as well as this one is that you know it, that you know your family, and it sounds as though you want to stay with family here in this country. Now, the reason why that concerns me is because understanding the Bible from an African perspective, the story tells us that there was an African man over here. The Bible refers to him as Joseph, and he married a black.
Talk about the Bible with you.
I don't know, but listen, we're set. I'm not talking about it. I'm not talking about it from a white.
Believe in the Bible.
I'm not talking about it from a white supremacist aspect. I'm talking about it from a historical aspect. Africans did come over here and mix with black Indians. And basically what the story is telling you is that when it was time to go back home to Africa, there were African families that had made marriages with these black Indians against what their ancestors told them. They were not supposed to be mixing with any of the bloodlines over here, but they did. But when it was time to return back to Africa, the ones referred to as Manasseh went back home, and the ones referred to as Ephraim stayed here. Now, here's the question. Do y'all, since we talk about history, what happened to the Mayans? Are they not saying that the Mayans just like up and just disappeared? Those are the Africans.
That's what they're saying, but we know that's a lie. We know that people are related to the Mayans.
Figure out what he's saying that I didn't agree with or something. I never said that no Africans came over here. Did you hear me say that?
You're misunderstanding what I'm saying.
You say that no Africans came over here.
Sister Freedom, he's not saying
that's not what I'm saying.
Africans laid over here. He's making it the claim that we're supposed to have more allegiance to Africa than America, even though. Hold on, wait 1 second, Sister Freedom. But wait, Sister Freedom, wait, because he's proven they're religious. This is what I've been saying all night. This sounds like Shatter. This sounds like everybody else with their religion. This is what this is. So let him prove that all this is a religion to want us to be more African than we are American. So you said because we don't want to go back to Africa and we're okay, we're looking for our American lineage. Is that something that's gonna lead us to hell?
No, if you understood hell from an African perspective and not a white supremacist perspective, y'all would understand what it is that I'm saying instead of cutting me off. All right. So from an African perspective, when our ancestors was in bondage to the Roman Empire, there were African revolutionaries running all across that Roman Empire telling Africans to return back to Africa. And there were Africans that did not do it, and they got destroyed by the Mount Vesuvius super volcano. Now, here we are in America, and we're facing this thing called the Yellowstone super volcano. So put the religious stuff and all that white supremacist understanding of the Bible aside and understand what has actually happened in history when it comes down to Africans. If you want to stay here in America, just know that Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and 9, that there's nothing new under the sun. That's actual factual. The Bible is like a clock. It always repeats itself. It's a cyclical nature type of thing. It's a sun book. And by wanting to stay here in this country and claim that you family with these black Indians, You're setting yourself up for destruction, and that's all I want to say.
Can I now
All right.
answer the question that
All
I
right.
I've been
one
I
second.
just
Need everybody quiet, man. I need everybody quiet. I want to get to the people that haven't spoke yet. Then I can make my way back around. And to answer you, my sister Dulcinea, nobody up here brought up religion except for my brother
At all.
Moses just now.
at all.
Nobody
At
talked
all.
about religion.
But it
Just
sounded the
I'm
same.
going to answer him. Please.
Sounding the same and actually speaking about the language is entirely two different things.
Okay.
Don't characterize everybody on a panel the same way, Dulcinea. That's not fair and it's not right. Don't do
But
that.
it was a belief system that we were talking about when we
But
tried to
he's
bring
the
up
only
history.
gentleman
Tried
on
to
the
bring up
panel that said anything.
belief still comes up. But hold on, y'all. Let me not go, because I got it from it sounding like a belief system, and we know that Moses sounds like a belief system. Who was it that you were going to, Sonetta?
all right. So yeah, let me go on over. I want to go around. Let me get to
I never
Aboriginal
answered the
power.
question. Never did.
Aboriginal power. You got the floor, brother.
Hey, I just want to come up and build a little bit peace and blessings to everybody that's on the panel. And I just want to
Please,
piggyback and back what Nail was saying about the pyramids in America. They're dated, carbon dated, at 46 to 5,500 years old. So that puts it roughly around and before the pyramids.
Are you talking about the Peruvian Corral?
Yes, correct.
Okay,
Yes.
because what I'm seeing, I could share the screen. It says 2600 BCE.
Okay. Can you pull it up?
Sure.
And 2600 BCE wouldn't make it at 4600 years
Okay.
ago.
Yeah, it wouldn't make it from 5,000.
Right, but we got to be.
500 years ago.
We understand that, but if you're saying, it sounds like you're saying 4600 BCE.
No. He's saying 4,600 years ago.
I said it's 4,600 years. I said
Okay,
it's dated
yes, then
2600.
yes, and that's
But I also have a source that's
Go ahead.
I also have a source putting it at 3,000 to 3,500 BCE, according to Ruth Shady and John Haas, which is the leading archaeologist on that particular site. And I also have my screen ready to pull up as well.
Okay, you have your information and pulled it up, because do you still want me to pull? So we agree that they're both dated at 2600 roughly BCE, both the Djoser, the pyramid at Saqqara, and the pyramid at Peru in Peru.
Yeah, so some dates, and I'm gonna get into it exactly what it said. It said the settlements, in particular Corral, the 33-acre, had terrace, underground storage niches, residential areas, and residential centers. The South American pyramid builders began construction.
Hey, hold on, Aboriginal. You know you gotta cite the source. Like, where's the source?
I'm going to go exactly to the sources, and I'm going to highlight them for everybody to see those as well.
Can you share what you're reading?
Where's it coming from?
I'm reading from the American Indian Encyclopedia.
Oh, okay. Let me. So is that what you have right now on the screen?
Yes.
The American Indian Encyclopedia. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so it said American pyramid builders began constructing these structures several hundred years before the pyramids in Egypt. Archaeologists believe the Egyptians built their first pyramid at Saqqara around 2886 in between 2886 to 2613 BCE. So usually they go with the lower date, but they don't often give you the higher date. So 2886 would be the higher date. Constructed in Giza pyramids about 2589 to 2504. In about 1800 BCE, South American ceremonial centers took on a certain look. Okay, so it's comparing the dating of these pyramids. Okay, and then that's according to John Haas and Ruth Shady. This is just one source. I have multiple sources to back that up.
Okay, so we were talking about sources, and I appreciate that, but we can agree that, I mean, you wouldn't disagree that that's possibly a biased source.
Hold on. Hold on. I can go to the sources so you can see exactly where it comes from. Hold on. Let me put my screen back up.
Because if you just look at any unbiased source, like the History Channel,
Well, I wouldn't call it a biased source. Well, you can't say it's a biased source. My bad. I just want to put my source out. Like I said, it comes from John Haas and Ruth Shady. These are leading archaeologists on that particular site. All their work has been peer reviewed as well.
Okay. Can I share? So Dulcinea shared some of her sources with us in the back. Thank you, Dulcinea, so much for sharing that. Real
quick, I'll share your screen, Sister Shutter, not to cut you off. This is the history website, history.com website. It says right here, constructed around 2600 BC. No bias. It's not the Native American Encyclopedia. And there are other sources that you can go to that are not biased or leaning toward, the agenda. We're talking about agendas, right? We've been talking about that all night with Dulcinea. There's no agenda to prove that for some, that the civilization in America predates Africa. So you can take both of those sources and you can do what you want with it. What did you want to share, Sister Shutter?
Yes, I have it up. It's actually Dulcinea's source from The Collector.
Okay, great. You want to read it?
Sure. So we have the Djoser Pyramid in Egypt. 10 facts on the first pyramid, right? The world's oldest stone structure. The Djoser Pyramid recently reopened after years of renovation. The article lays out all the facts you need to know about the important ancient monument. I'm going to scroll down to here. The Pyramid of the Djoser is the first ever stone pyramid. The Great Pyramid at Giza may feature more commonly on Egyptian postcards, but it's the Pyramid of Djoser that was the first of its kind ever to be built. The ancient Egyptians held strong beliefs about the afterlife, blah, blah, blah. Before the Djoser Pyramid, however, pharaohs were typically buried in rectangular tombs constructed out of slabs made from mud called mastabas, right? Here's the thing, though. It's still calling it the oldest remaining stone building based on how it was constructed. Not that it was the oldest over those that are in Egypt. It's the oldest of its kind because what it's built with is different from what it's built with in Egypt. We have to be very clear about the word usage here. And so that's why I said, well, is it the oldest of them in the world or the oldest in America? And so now this source that was granted to us by Dulcinea, it is letting us know that it's the oldest oldest of its kind based on the structure of it, but not as far as in the timeline. And that's what I wanted to point out.
And I want to just jump in real quick.
I mean, this is from her source. I didn't make this up.
I have another source from 2022.
Okay, let me
from UNESCO saying that it's 5,000 years old.
Just respond to that, or let me, because it is a conversation with us. And thank you.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, do you want me to take down your screen and then can we have a conversation? Can we have a conversation? Can we have a conversation about Africans coming to the Americas and possibly building these structures? We don't have hard facts on that, but there's a lot of circumstantial evidence, which is what Aboriginals are basing their whole claim on, in my opinion. So even as we see that it's pretty much dated at the same time as far as construction, that would point more to the Step Pyramid of Saqqara and the people of Africa possibly being linked to coming here and building. It doesn't say anything about the people here being separate from Africa. So all roads go back to Africa when we talk about these structures.
Sister Napaz, I didn't even finish scrolling down, but it says Imhotep, the architect behind the period of Djoser. Where's Imhotep from, you guys?
Africa.
Can I speak? Because
Pseudo always dies at his sword.
I think you're getting confused because that's why I posted it. And thank you for going through it. The Pyramid of Djoser is the incorrect Kemetic pyramid that they're saying is the oldest. So I posted that to show you what they were saying about it being the oldest. But we actually know, as far as the pyramids of Caral, which are in Peru, are the oldest. But yes, what you're pointing out is exactly the things I wanted you to see from those articles. And so we can see the information that the scientists are actually giving us about those Kemetic pyramids. But those are the pyramids that are in Kemet, not in Peru. Now, can Aboriginal
But
powers,
no information was presented that Caral is older. It says
Yeah,
it's
I
they're,
got- I got
they're the
one.
same
I
age.
wanted to see if Aboriginal power can respond to what you just said, because we kind of cut him off while he was showing his sources on that.
Right. I said I also have. I was showing you one from the encyclopedia, but this is from the UNESCO site. And like I said, it's still referring to John Hassan Rushdie. It says that this 5,000-year-old, 626-acre archaeological site, dating back, clear evidence. You can run through the site. I'll drop the link in the back so you guys can go over. Okay.
So it goes from 2600 BCE to now it's 4,600 years old. Now it's 5,000 years old.
It's been dated at between 46 to 5,000 years old, which is 3,000.
Still the same as the pyramid in Kemet. That's what we're not what we're trying to do.
Show me where the pyramid is in Kemet is being dated at 3,000 or being labeled at 5,000 years old. Go ahead.
Okay, before I do that, let me say this again. This doesn't prove that African that you are native or
another topic. That's a whole another topic. But can you
hold
put
on?
up that?
I'm just saying this. You showing this, which we've seen the facts that they are.
I was only pulling up the back up what
I know, and I appreciate that. Now you showed us that they're both the same age. You showed us something from, you said the Native American Encyclopedia. Thank you.
No, I showed something a couple hundred years older, and that's exactly what the archaeology.
No, actually, science. There's all. Do your own research, everybody. We don't have to go back and forth about this. The pyramids are not. There's information that these pyramids.
Where the oldest one in Kemet is 5,000 years. You just said that.
Okay. As I said, as I'm trying to say, the facts out there is that the Caral pyramid is dated around 2600 BCE. I don't know. I'm not going to argue your source with you. People can fact check your source, but the unbiased information is that at this point they are the same age. Now, with that understood, even at them being the same age, we know that there is a civilization that's established. It's facts that Kemet has the oldest or has had the oldest known pyramids. Okay. Now, Dulcinea did present some factual information about there's a debate that Djoser isn't even, the pyramid at Saqqara isn't even the oldest. And I did hear Sister Shatter mention something like that. She mentioned that it is a structure that is there and it's the oldest known structure, that piece of architecture. What I'm trying to say is this doesn't point. It doesn't say Aboriginal.
And that they was 4,600 to 5,000 years old. I showed you 46. She did, and that's what she was.
She said it was older. It's not.
Yeah. So
when we established that it's not older.
I just showed you 5,000 years in America. Can you show
showed us a piece of information that came from a very
it just came from
an unreliable source. Okay, fine. Got it. I'm not going to argue your source.
Hold on, I'm going to pull it back up on the screen again from the UNESCO.
I know he cut me off. I was just about to land my plane. Listen, brother. You put your source out there, and then we looked at other sources. Okay, so now we know both of them are on the table, and the argument isn't, you haven't established.
I don't think
I'm still talking. I'm talking. Do you mind? I'm almost done in that, and then you can have the floor. You're not showing us that is older, and even if it is older, at this point in science and archaeology, we know that Kemet they are the builders of the pyramids, the forefront standing as the ones with the oldest pyramids. And you're not going to prove to us, because there are pyramids here in the Americas, that what are you trying to say? The indigenous people of America are older than the Kemetic Africans? It's not proving that you're African in a nutshell. It's not proving that you're African. We would have to explore and see, well, who built that pyramid there in Peru? Were they, and I'm going to land, were they Africans? How did they come here? I'm more leaning toward Africans exploring, and I know a lot of people don't believe that we had ships to sail to the Americas, but there's information pointing to that. So you're still not proving that you are not African and that there wasn't a slave trade even.
Okay. Abby, go ahead.
So like I said, I don't think she's comprehending. I showed two separate sources.
I'm comprehending just fine.
Without being cut off, please.
One at a time now. Go ahead.
Like I said, I showed two different sources. I don't think she comprehends. She kept saying one source.
I think
showed
Aboriginal power. I think it's because the man.
Let the man finish, please. Go ahead.
I know. I was just explaining to him. It was. I was just saying. I think it's because the math, and when you say 5,000 years ago, and people are not being able to put that in terms of BC, and 5,000.
No, it's just that he's wrong.
Would
He's
be
wrong.
3,000. It would be 3,000 BC to 2,800 BC. So I just want.
I want Aboriginal to finish so I can move on. I don't want him to say he ain't
Right.
finished. I want
So like I was saying, is I showed two separate sources. Both of them referred to the pyramids, and they was in contrast to the pyramids in Egypt. One of them showed the date at 46 to 5,000 years, which is 2,600 BCE to 3,000 BCE. I also went to another source, since she or you guys may think it's biased, since it comes from American Indian Encyclopedia. I went to UNESCO and showed you the same source where it says 5,000 years. I can go to Smithsonian. I can go to California University and pull up the scientific journal report. I mean, it doesn't matter which one I pull up. They're all going to say the same thing, and they're all going to give reference to John Haas and Ruth Shady, which is at 5,000 years. She also made the claim that they're the same date. So what I would like for her to do is show me the pyramid in Egypt been dated at 5,000 years or at 3,000 BC. That's it.
All right, let me move on over to Dr. Reggie. Dr. Reggie, you want to speak on that? I can't hear you, Reggie. Unmute yourself, Dr. Reg. We can't hear you, Dr. Reggie. Just jump out, jump back in, Reggie, because you're stuck. Your volume is stuck. I'll hold you.
Your referee game is on point today, boy. You like Tony Weeks up in this joint.
I'll hold your spot.
Dot hadn't gotten to talk.
Who?
Dot, she's been here for a while. Pieces.
Okay. Hey Reggie, I want you to get jump out and come back in. Sister Dots, go ahead, Dots. You want to say something?
Hi, y'all. Good evening to everyone. I hope Reggie can come back up. I just wanted to say to both the ladies, Dulcie and Shadow,
and come back in. Just go out and come back in so you can be able to get off the stuck. Go ahead, Dots. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I was saying that I thought that this was a great conversation, Shatter and Dulcie. I really enjoyed it. It seemed like you ladies had much more that you agreed on than anything different. But overall, I really did enjoy the conversation. I do have a question, but before I get to the question, I just wanted to address something in terms of Reggie's source and what made him a bit emotional or upset in regards to what Freedom was saying. So I know you mentioned the source that came from Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica. I can share it if you need me to.
No, I showed two sources.
Okay, but the last one that you showed when you was referencing how that continent got its name, I do think it is important, just for sake of the conversation, to also throw in that you know, there's a number of theories on how that landmass got its name Africa, right? And in that source that you showed, that Britannica source, if you continue to read, you would see that initially when the Greeks are said to have called the continent initially Libya, and then the Romans changing it to Africa, they weren't talking about the entire continent. They were talking about those trading posts or colonies that the Romans and the Greeks had, right? They weren't referencing that entire continent. And I think that's important to the conversation because it lends itself to the larger point of this is why there are questions, right? And this is the prevailing theory, but we know a theory does not mean fact, okay? So I just wanted to put that out there. Now, my question.
So Dodge,
Yes.
Sister Dodge, how are you doing?
Hold on. Hey, Reggie, let her finish. Let her finish so we don't have to say she ain't finished. Let her finish first. You can go right behind her.
So my question was to Shatter. If you could trace, I know you mentioned about tracing your family back in America back to the 1500s, right? Which is great. Why is that not enough for someone to accept or for someone to understand that, in fact, you are indigenous to this land? Or is it more important to revere a landmass, right, over what your direct family members and what your direct lineage have shown and proved you to be?
Great question. So for me, like, I really like history, right? And so I always say start at the beginning. And even within our own family, like I said, my cousin was in the chat, feathers up. and I say, so predate. So for me, no, it's not enough. I want to get back to the beginning. The same way people want to create arguments around what is the origin story of life is how I look at history. What is the origin story of our people on this planet in this space? So that's why I don't mind going back further and further. And I love to look at it because I like to see the similarities of how people have learned, migrated, and how certain traditions and customs have followed. I mean, we see Mexicans do a rain dance. We see, and I'll even take away, just say we have ceremonial dances. Ceremonial dances happen throughout Africa. They happen throughout the Caribbean. They happen throughout South America. They happen here with the indigenous Americans. And so I don't think that that's by chance. So I'm just a woman who asks a lot of questions. And so for me, going back to the 1500s is not enough because I know that there's more. And I want to correct somebody that I seen also in the chat. That is my mother's lineage. My father's lineage is different, and they do trace themselves back to Africa because of the Baba Shanti. But I grew up Rastafarian, so my understanding of certain things is a little different. But as far as my people on that side tracing themselves back, they even pinpoint to Nanny and the Maroons and all that stuff. And I haven't researched that thoroughly to stand on it, but that is what I'm told from my peoples. And so if we're having a conversation of, oh, this is what I'm finding out from my family, which a lot of the indigenous American believers are saying, then yes, that's true too. And so I like to know I have two parents with two sets of grandparents, with two sets of great-grandparents, and my great-grandmother, who, God bless, just transitioned 2 years ago. Like, she knows her people, and she knows who the man that she married, who was considered Cherokee, or rather that is who he is. I'm not going to say considered because that's exactly who they are. Right. But I also feel like if we're looking at America and we understand the history of America for what's have been revealed, then it goes back to who were the people who were here 15 to 20,000 years ago. Because in a lot of the historical text, including from the natives, say that that's where they start from. That's the year point that they start from. So I'm always asking, well, what about before that? I'm just a sister on a quest. I don't deny anybody whatever they find in their lineage. And I've been saying, when we're looking at the genetic testing, which I showed, if the Chinese people are rooting themselves back to Africa, why is it that the Black American, or those of us even having this discussion tonight, are having questions or misunderstandings about it? I didn't understand that. And I didn't know if it was coming from a place of really questioning and being on a quest, or if it was self-hate, because there's a lot of things that I've seen often on this channel that are around that. And I'm not saying that that's these ladies, I'm saying what I've seen. As far as with bringing up the sources, Dulcinea, I'm still going through yours to figure out when did that that pyramid in Peru become older, and even if it's not older, its structure is coming from where? What was the influence behind that? Because we keep acting like there wasn't a relationship between East and West. There's a relationship between East and West that predates the transatlantic slave trade. We got to stop doing that. And if our historical reference point to start is only the slave trade, we're doing ourselves as people a disservice. It goes beyond that point, and I know that everybody knows that.
Well,
Yeah.
just to answer your question, sorry, just really quickly, and I'll give it right back to you, Dot. Sorry, I do read as far as in the previous histories, and the thing is, I've just opened myself up to read some more stuff instead of thinking that the influence goes from east to west to the people that are saying the influence goes from west to east. And what I would say, as far as anything, whether I'm reading about globe earth, flat earth, west to east, east to west, or anything like that, I just try not to come with preconceived notions of just believing, oh, it has to be one way or over the other. So I can just see who is presenting the most sources, who is presenting the most evidence, and whose evidence makes the most sense. So what I would say to answer that is, I've never said that there wasn't an influence that predates. I would just say we need to really study to really know which is influence first.
And I would also, then I would go back to saying, and starting over from the beginning, until I see bones unscathed and unearthed here that predates Lucy, then I have to still continue to look towards the east. I haven't seen that yet. You know, God willing, maybe somebody will do a dig here in the Americas and they discover it. If they do, then they do. And then now we have another conversation to talk about, right? But until then,
we need
it
a
hasn't
whole
been shown.
conversation about Lucy, please. That's
you like, we're not going to do that. You keep moving the goalposts on what scientists are valid and which ones are not. We can't do that. We can't do that.
We have to know why Lucy was dug up, who dug them up, what their benefits was with their analysis of Lucy. We can't say that we're choosing the same science when it's not the same science. When I say the benefit that the internet and networking has versus we talk about that the same networking brought the dark web, we cannot act like the dark web is Google. It's not. You have to understand the difference. So when you're using archaeologically and evidence and anthropology, that is not the same as autosomal DNA. So you can't just lump them together and say, oh, well, you're talking about autosomal DNA, and that's the same thing as Lucy. No, it's not. It's not the same thing as Lucy. And we have to understand anthropology.
Nah, I'm not going to let you do that to me, sis. I showed you the sources from geneticists that also proved and showed themselves going back to Africa. Not just Lucy's bones. Not just Lucy's bones. I gave you more than one.
Yeah, and I get that. And that's why I was saying, that's why we brought up autosomal DNA and we went back and forth on that. Right. I was just saying, as far as the Lucy portion, that we really need to talk about that Lucy portion someday, because that's different than the DNA. And we can talk about the contentions within Lucy. But I definitely discussed the DNA with you, and you don't disagree that DNA autosomally is passed down through family and shows family lineage. There's just some disconnect we're having in the way that you feel though you can believe it when they're giving you regions and not people. And I am saying I don't believe it unless it's giving me people, because autosomal DNA can only tell you your relatedness to people.
Okay. I'd like to add.
I had a second question about the DNA.
Yeah, I wanted to add, before your question to me got lost, which it did. So why don't you finish with your question so I could answer it, okay? Or try to answer it, okay?
Okay. It wasn't really a question. Okay, no problem, Chief Reggie. But question regarding that DNA, because Dulcie had made a good point with another brother that was up here. I think it was yesterday. I think he was from Sierra Leone or something like that. Or what have you, when she had asked him whether or not he took the DNA test, and he was like, of course not, because I know where I'm from. right? Very matter of fact. I know where I'm from. Of course not. And so if we know that continental Africans are not participating in taking DNA tests, how reliable or valuable are the results that we're getting, right? Those of us that are taking that. How reliable are those?
I
Okay.
think
Who
I
are you
think
asking
that's
about?
a
Can I
fair
now
question.
speak? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, go ahead, Brother Reggie. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
Anybody
So
can.
I want to get back to an earlier point. So I don't know if you was here, Sister Dots. I don't know if you was here. Before I showed the Britannica source, I did show this source, right? So were you here when I showed this source? The Britannica source is were you here when I showed this source
I
by
was
African?
I probably I had stepped away for a minute. So
Okay, so you stepped away. So I showed this source from Brent D. Shaw, right? From this article, this university book, A Companion to Ethnicity in the Ancient Mediterranean by Jeremy McInerney, right? And in it, it was discussion of the name of Afri, right? And this source would be a better source than Britannica, right? And they talk about how the first encounters of the Europeans to a particular group of people, right, which was the Afris. It says here, it says where they encountered the Afris were encountered, right, and then they give the sources. It says the Afri people become stand-ins for all other local indigenous inhabitants of the land. Others like them became Afri or Afrikini, and metonymically, the land was called Africa. So that's what the source and the sources in the source, where Britannica is not the best source because it's not sourcing the other sources. And so the issue is that the Afri people became stand-ins for other groups of African people, and then ultimately for the whole land. And in this conversation is the group of Afri right here that the Romans encountered this particular group of people that served Carthage, right? And the Roman general fought these people for Carthage. And when Carthage was defeated, it's this group of people, Afri people, that the Romans recruited in their garrisons. So I'm sorry, Dots. And the other thing is I heard about before I was being emotional. I heard that. All right. So it's okay if you think that I was being emotional. You have your right to say that, but I was giving sources to everything that I said. Now, on the issue of pyramids, okay, I'm not I study ancient Egypt, what is called ancient Egypt, right? Because that's another stand-in word by the Greeks. I study the culture, right? And I'm not so much of a fan of pyramids. They had various purposes. At first, it seemed that they had something to do with the water supply, and then later they seemed to be something more symbolically for the kings. I and so it became symbolic until in the 12th dynasty they stopped building pyramids. Pyramids is not my favorite study because I think that they should have built walls and other things, right? But so with that said, you can make a big deal, not you Dots, but the other people. You can make a big deal out of pyramids, but there's two different things that's going on, right? The pyramid structures that actually that we find in Africa, in the place that we call Egypt, um, those structures, of course, were very mathematical.
Reggie, Nepal, you there?
Yes, sir.
Hey, hold it down for a minute, right quick. Robin, speak next. Hold it down.
Okay, cool.
They were very mathematically intensive, And I'm not saying that the ones in South America were not mathematically intensive, but what I am going to say is that the Africans were able to create what you call the smooth pyramid. The smooth pyramid was closer to a true pyramid because it was outside of the outside of the structure, the stone structure. They were able to have a smooth surface over it, right, to seal it, to make it, how can I say, very smooth, so it really wouldn't be able to be climbed, right? And so that was part of a symbolism that they created in Africa to make it closer. However, in the Naqada period, if you know about the Naqada period and the Naqada vases, you see the structures being designed at about 3700 BC, right? So that takes it earlier. Whether or not they were fabricated at that time or not, the Africans actually began to create those structures. And so here you can see in Naqada, in the Naqada period, right? This is part of their thinking before the true pyramid was manufactured. I don't think that we should make pyramids that important, but we should look at how things came to be. And before the pyramids in Africa, there were tumuli. And tumuli, you can go all the way back to Southern Africa to find tumuli, and actually from West Africa across to East Africa, around the Green Sahara phase, you can find them. But even if there are pyramids in South America, right? South American abos are different than North American abos, and this whole fake concept of making every abo culture or indigenous culture the same is terrible scholarship, right? Terrible scholarship. The Mississippians, of course, they had mound structures, right? But Africans had mound structures too, right? So these are two groups of people across the world. We don't have all of the different facts, but one thing that we do have is that the people of Oceania, right? Those groups of people were master stone builders. So we're talking all the way up to Easter Island. And there's good evidence that those group of people crossed the Pacific into the Americas. And those group of people from Oceania were melanated people. And so, and if they are melanated people, all groups of people came from the continent of Africa at one point or another and admixed with other groups, right? Other human species along the way. So there's complete admixture. But even with all that is said, the Abo argument of pyramids, and we had pyramids, no, they had pyramids. You haven't proven that you are directly related to them except for your belief. So what we have is cultures in the Americas, South American cultures, North American cultures, that you abos, without science, right, have seemed to amend that you are those people. And that is the problem with your very terrible, terrible, terrible scholarship. There's nothing, when we look at the DNA of those people, the Aztecs and the Mayas, and those people will not match your DNA. But somehow you, through falsifying information, exaggerating information, make it seem as that you were those people and you were not. So I will stop, right? And I just want to say there's good scholarship and bad scholarship. And you people are doing a whole lot of really bad scholarship. But then at the same time, you pick and choose. Like my source was kicked out and called a white person, right? When all of your sources that you use about the Aboriginals come from white people, because your big mama stories, that's all they are. Big mama stories. They can't be necessarily, how can I say, connected to any science, right? So I'll stop and I'll listen again.
Okay, thank you, Brother Reggie. Go ahead, Robin. If you don't mind, after Robin, I'd like to share some information on the UNESCO acknowledged archaeologist that the brother was talking about. But thank you for letting me say that.
Before, I just want to say something to Brother Reggie, but Sister Freedom.
Go ahead if you was going to say something before I do.
No. I was saying before Sister Nepal goes to UNESCO. I just wanted to say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that's fine.
It's funny, and I hope I don't get put on mute. I don't know who was doing that because I know that. Okay. Anyway, just to be clear, if I had any other information concerning Africa, I would have said it myself. I don't need somebody to be very disingenuous to talk to me and then have some other information that they didn't get a chance to tell me and then come online and call me a liar. That's bullcrap. And that's something I'm not going to accept, because that person read the exact same thing and information that I gave and been giving. So I don't know why, and said that they were not African. And Africa, that continent, has had many names. But that particular person said, I am not African, I'm African descent. The same thing that I have been saying. But then get up here and then talk like we didn't have a conversation. And you didn't get an opportunity to tell me what you wanted to say to me, but you get on here and act like, you know, like
Freedom, somebody said they weren't Africans. Who said they wasn't African? Oh.
Okay. Don't trick me and don't play no games with me, because I don't do lies. And I'm not afraid of any information that anybody can give, brother.
Show a source. Just show a source.
I don't
If she could speak, Sister Freedom, it's okay. Just go ahead and speak.
No, but just show a source.
No, Brother Reggie, every time you're speaking, we sit back on you and we listen to you the whole time.
You're talking about
I hadn't called you out being a punk the whole time you've been on HOK.
Yes.
But
It's
you
like
guys,
8 minutes. We
I
were
never
running.
asked you not to talk to each other.
You call me a punk? So
yeah,
8 minutes in.
Okay, fine. That's right,
Can we
Robin.
have Sister Freedom please finish?
All you have to do
Can
is
she
show a
please
source.
go?
I'm your punk, but you show a source.
Okay, guys, can we not ruin their build?
Okay.
Because the name
I'm just
calling
saying
is.
She called me a punk.
Yeah,
so
that
I'm
was.
just saying,
And you called
I'm
me
your
a liar.
punk. Show
And
me
you
a
called me
source.
a liar, punk.
Okay,
call you a
Robin.
liar.
Robin, did you want to present some
call you a liar.
information?
I
You
call you a
did.
liar.
You did.
Did you want to present some information?
No, I wanted to ask a question because I kept being put on mute when I was talking to Shatter.
Well, Sonetter mutes people when he feels like they're like saying punk and stuff.
I don't think it was Sonetta.
Well, guess what? The first time it was Sonetter, my husband, and then when you call Reggie,
oh, here we go.
Sister
All
Freedom.
All right.
Freedom, calm down. And then when you call him a punk, so you guys wouldn't have to ruin the show, I muted you and I was going to mute him. So no, Sonetter did mute you when you ran off the panel the first time, because you guys were going back and forth. It's no secret.
That's fine.
Okay, so I'm just saying, if you want to ask your question, you can ask your question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Shatter. Is she still there? I don't know if she is or not.
It sounds like she stepped away, but let me say something
Go
really
ahead
fast, and then
because I am
you can go right
go ahead
back to
and
when
come
she
out
comes
nice.
back.
So, and not to
I want to
share.
say to what Brother Reggie keeps saying, because this is a tactic that a lot of them do. Unc does it, and all this other stuff. When you bring up that they're using a white source, they want to say, "Well, all you use is white sources." No, the point of it is I'm trying to get other people to look outside of white people. I use the Chinese man as a source for China. So even though there was a Chinese anthropologist that believes in outer Africa, there's a Chinese geneticist that doesn't. There's an Indian geneticist that doesn't believe in outer Africa. There are African anthropologists that don't believe in Lucy. This is stuff that we would get when we actually go out and get other people's sources, but we stick with one group of people. And then people like to use these red herring straw man arguments to say, oh, well, all you use is white people. I should be able to use white people. Or, oh, look at them. I don't like the source. Look, oh, it's from a white person, even though they just use a white person as a source. It's not a problem that you have sources from white people. It's a problem when that's all your sources, when you do not step outside of a particular line of people to actually find a source. And it's even more problematic when you only get your sources from one group of people or one sector of people in science or math or history. It shows that you're biased. And if you do not want to get it from the, I'm still talking, Reggie, and you go 10 minutes of talking every time,
No, she's
but you
talking
never
about me.
have the
I talk about
decorum when
information.
someone else is talking for you to just sit back and listen to them talk. Never do
Right,
you have
all right.
ever had any decorum.
Hold
And
on.
everyone has decorum for you.
Hold on. Listen, I don't want y'all talking to each other or about each other. Stick with information.
I was before I got cut off.
Information, y'all. Damn, we all grown up in here, man. We keep getting like we in the goddamn grade, sitting at the desk with the teacher. Got to keep telling us. Let's stay on the information, and then guess what? Nobody can get emotional. Nobody can get mad. Nobody can start going off on each other. Let's just all still deal with the information. That's it. Go ahead, finish.
Thank you.
Though.
I would just like to finish my thought, just like I allow everybody else to finish their
I'm
thought.
wait
That's
after you get
all.
done, Dulcinea.
So yeah, of course. So what I was saying as far as it, and it's not to say that other people in other regions aren't going to be wrong or they're going to be right, but it's just as far as to get some unbiased sources. Like if you do not know that Indonesia is saying that their pyramid may be the oldest pyramid in the world, then you need to study that for yourself. You need to get that information because they have their own anthropologists that are looking into studying things with different ways of looking into like different surveying that they're doing as far as to do the age and finding that some of the structures are underground. That's how we found as far as the Easter Isles recently were underground, even though they thought that they were heads for so many years. So we need to actually gravitate out of just, okay, is it a black or white source? There are human beings, and we can actually take from all human being sources and learn for ourselves and know what is more accurate and what is not accurate. But when someone uses a straw man, red herring argument to say, oh, you use white people, they're a problem because you should use all people, not just one race of people. I use human beings.
Okay.
Thank you. Whenever you want to respond.
I need everybody quiet. Everybody quiet until I call on you.
It was my turn.
Number one, y'all. You see Dulcinea and the sister Shatter. Why would y'all want to mess up their conversation? This was a beautiful discussion. Right. And when y'all do this, guess what? You mess up the conversation. Because everybody now, you know, we gets attracted to the beefing and the thing. And that's what takes away from the whole thing that these two sisters have said earlier. It was Freedom's turn. Let her finish, Reggie.
Right.
And Freedom, talk about the information, please. No.
Yeah, I wanted first to apologize to Nepal because I didn't. She just ended up getting me hollering at her, and I didn't mean.
I know you love me, Robin. You don't have to apologize. Just you were getting upset. It's fine.
Yeah. At the same time, I don't like when people are being deceitful. But Nepal, Excuse me, what's his name? Moses.
Moses.
Yeah, I can't get his name right either. But Moses, did you hear me say anything bad about Africa?
Moses on another level. Y'all ain't ready for Moses. He on a whole nother level, man.
No, I'm at. See, that's why I never can get, because Moses, did you hear me say anything bad about Africa?
What I'm hearing is black women trying to make the. I'm answering your question. I'm hearing you make the case as why we should stay here, why the sons of God should stay here under this white supremacist contract. I hear that from you and Dulcinea. You both of y'all is like trying to make the case that we're supposed to stay here.
Let him answer.
Both of y'all is making a case that we supposed to stay here in America. And also, let me say this. Yo, BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, that's the resurrection of an old order. I don't even hear y'all talking about going back to Brazil.
Okay,
why y'all not talking about that? Y'all trying to stay here in America.
Yes, I'm definitely going to stay in America.
And y'all the ones that the Bible be talking about. Y'all the ones the Bible talk about riding on the back of the beast. You leading your sons, you leading the sons of God, you leading the sons of God down the road of hell trying to stay up in this place. Eric Gardner, Corinne Gaines, Sandra Bland, all of the brothers and sisters that have died under white supremacy is your fault. It's women like you. It's your fault.
Sister Freedom, don't get triggered. Sister Freedom, don't get triggered.
I'm laughing at him because I think he is a bozo.
Yes.
But I'm asking him, when is he going back to Africa?
All right, hold
I
on.
want to know that anybody on this panel hear me say anything bad about Africa.
Yo, the way you speak against it, just by denying it, denying it.
Denied it either. I never denied it.
Sister Freedom. I get it. You keep saying you're not speaking about Africa, but when people hear you speak, you don't hear it. You are speaking against Africa, Freedom.
What I say about it? Tell me one bad thing I said about Africa.
Listen, man, you don't see it and you don't hear
No,
it.
I want you to tell me what I said about Africa.
Listen to me.
I have a question.
You talking about when you going back to Africa? You picking on people, man.
Moses, I have a question for you.
I'm waiting to hear it. Free haven't said one thing that I said bad about Africa.
Everybody, stop. Sister Freedom, go on with the information so I could bring on Dots and Reggie. Go on.
No, I wanted to go after Dots. I've really been waiting to show this information, please. If you don't mind, Reggie, it's just going to be really quick.
All right, go ahead, Sister Freedom. Finish up with the information.
I have not said one thing bad about Africa by me saying that my family is on, that I found my family on these lands is saying something bad about Africa. I'm confused. What one thing that I said in derogatory pertaining to Africa?
Okay,
Sister Freedom, so just keep going.
Here we go. When we talk about the slave ships, all of us ain't come over here on the slave ships. It was a lot of us that was here already. Hold on. How do you know? How do you know that those was the Africans that got here? Why do I need to get back to go back? How you know I'm not here?
You say that.
You were here already. It was a lot of us that was here already. And then when
did you hear me say? Now I said it was a lot. Now is that saying something?
Freedom. See, you asked me to ask you. I'm telling you what I hear you say. When
Make sure you don't lie, though.
When we say, how do you know? I don't believe the story like that. Now, the story had to be something different. How do you know that we were already here already? We ain't all come over here on the slave ship. We were here already. There were some of us here. But then when we say things like, show us a source, Freedom, you never show a source, sister. That's all we're saying. Come on.
I have a question.
What you said that I said something bad about Africa because I said that melanated people was already on these lands. If that's something bad about Africa, it's because
it's not, Sister Freedom.
I don't believe that the slave trade of the Atlantic slave trade happened the way it has been told to us. So that's saying
Right.
something bad about Africa?
It's
Yeah, let me
not.
ask
No,
Dulcinea a
hold
question
on.
and I'll
I've
prove
been
why
quiet.
it's bad.
I've
Hold
been
on, because
quiet.
everybody's gonna go in and no one's giving her an actual derogatory statement that she said about
What
Africa.
did I
No,
say
She has
bad?
okay,
not said it.
Dulcinea, let me
They
ask you this
can't make up.
question and
Hold
then
on,
you'll see
Moses, because it's
why she
Dotson in
gave
the pause.
derogatory.
It's
Moses.
Dotson in the pause. So no one can
I'm
make up
still
Moses.
waiting
anything
to
that she
talk.
said derogatory. You guys have
Likewise
had
for
chance
myself,
after
Reggie.
chance.
I'm
She
still
hasn't
waiting.
said
I've been quiet. I'm
anything
waiting to talk as one.
derogatory. So let Dot
All
talk.
right.
Right. No, she hasn't.
Hey,
So
hold on. Everybody
I
hold on.
haven't have Nepal. Did you hear
no,
what they
you have not. You're just
Shanetta, you gave
expressing.
a line. You gave a.
Everybody hold on. Brother La, go ahead.
What I'm trying to get you to understand.
I don't want you to get me to understand now.
No, Freedom. You can't do that, Freedom. Come on now.
Sister Freedom, I've never disrespected you in any capacity, sis.
I don't.
All right.
Have I disrespected you?
Just speak, Brother La. Just talk.
Just present the source. That's all we're saying. That's it.
Okay.
Okay. Nepal.
Yeah, I do want to talk. Just let me talk about my friend, Sister Freedom, real quick. Freedom is going to express herself. She's learning new things that she didn't know before, I'm assuming. She's looking at new things. And yeah, we're offended. I'm offended by the whole narrative, but I don't think we should single Freedom out. You know what I'm saying? There are people up here who are doing way more damage than Freedom, saying this is how I feel. I have a right to my opinion. This is the research I've done. We got to get back to the people who are actually trying to show us information and trying to teach us, like Ali last night, trying to lie to us and tell us that we're not from Africa. So in the defense of Freedom, I'm going to say, give her a break. She's really learning this from a group of people. And I'm not saying she's a mindless drone, because she's very, very intelligent, but this is very dangerous. Like I think Reggie said this, or someone said this is a dangerous narrative that's being pushed, and it's picking up speed. Let me ask you, before I even present the information about this Peruvian archaeologist, and you notice that he goes to UNESCO. So now the United Nations, we're okay with them. You guys talk about how you don't believe the Royal Society. You don't believe the Royal Society, there's a white man, but the United Nations is UNESCO. I didn't even want to go there. That's why I kept on saying to him, okay, that's your source. But so this Peruvian lady, who's an archaeologist, she's pushing, yeah, I found a pyramid that may be older, which it isn't. But let's go back. I want to, like I said, before I even show it, I want to ask Reggie, someone and Sonetter, people who have been in the community since the beginning. Was there a time when you heard this ridiculous notion put forward, like, oh, there was no real slave trade and we're the natives? You know what I'm saying? Did you just look at it as, oh, this is so silly, I don't even have to address it? I want to ask you that, Reggie. Can you take us back to the beginning, when it was just a small cancer, not a huge tumor that we're dealing with right now?
Unmute yourself.
You're muted, Dr. Reggie.
Hi. So yeah, on 125th Street, one of the beautiful things that Brother Sonetter did was create a forum out in the street where we can have all walks of life, right? Where we have even white people, tourists walking by and seeing Africans hung without sanctuary. That's where Sonetter got his teeth, defending Africa and African people, right, in the slave trade. So there's probably no person that was more visible in defending the African slave trade than Sonetter in the street, right? And so we listened to all walks of life, and we've seen different Moorish groups, because it's not one Moor group. There's different spokespersons, and they was walking around saying black means death isn't science, right? And so then there was lots of other groups, and then it was the Hebrews, trying to, I'm talking about the Hebrew men, I'm talking about the camps. And what we did is we engaged them intellectually. And so we saw the Abo groups is the newest group, and they are babies of Dane Calloway, right? The other groups of people, they were from the Yamasee people, from the Nubians joining with the Yamasee people. They weren't anti-African per se. They were just saying that they were African, that they were Black people, right? And there was a big question mark as to how that happened. But it has swelled after Dane Calloway. And so people saw how much money that Dane Calloway was making. And then they became much more vocal in our community, right? And then they came on this platform, not I would say our platform, but Sarnetta's platform, to begin to make their case. And so we listened and we gauged them somewhat respectfully, but at the end of the day, they are being disrespectful when they say that there was no African slave trade, to create a characters in a gray line that DNA, archaeology, anthropology cannot prove, right? So that's where, so it's become major, and we like to have the conversation because we have better facts. It was always one of the things that, listen, I come from a whole nother group of people with scholars, right? That's where I come from, with ASCAC, and I'll be presenting soon. I come from a different, more of an academic. I took Black Studies courses. I got the Honors Award in Black Studies. Y'all know my history, right? I learned the Meta Nature. I did all this in college, but then I came to the street, and I left the group that I was with to work with Brother Sarnetta. And so we hear these type of things, but it all boils down to reliable facts, Sister Napa. Not belief, not big mamas, none of that. It relies down to reliable facts. The big mamas of the world, right? That's their particular family and oral stories and traditions that we have to accept that it came from those families. But until I see the big mamas that are actually making these stories come on our platform, then it's just regurgitation of big mamas, the big babies of big mamas, right? Until we get the people, the heart of where it comes from, then we can deal with it. Otherwise, it's just regurgitation, mixing up facts. And then we find that the people can't even count to 3. They say they're from these tribes and this, that. They can't even count to 3. They have no respect for the cultures in which they are stealing, because they can't even count to 3. They don't know any language. We do Meta Nature, we do Hebrew here, we do all type of languages here, but the Abos have yet to come on showing us their original language. I
want to say this, man. I'll say this right here. It is definitely a slap in the face, total disrespect to the great minds who brought us this knowledge and information from ground zero, such as Dr. Ben. Are we saying Dr. Ben is a damn liar, that these men that didn't know nothing? What about Dr. Amos Wilson? One of our the greatest minds that we have ever had produced. What about Dr. Francis Cress Welsing? How come we never heard nothing from these grand master teachers about some goddamn Abos? What about Dr. John Henry Clark? Have we heard these men talking about this is who we are and taking Africa out of the center? What about Dr. Naeem Akbar, Dr. Charles Finch, Aswa Kwesi, Infadiji, Mary Obedi? I can go on and on. Even Sister Shahrazad Ali, Professor James Smalls, Dr. Leonard Jeffries. These are great minds of our people, and it's like we just shitting on them.
Talk.
None of these niggas, they science ain't mean a goddamn thing. I'm gonna go with Top Cat. Top Cat, the man. Here go Top Cat in the building. I'm gonna listen to the goddamn abos over here now who ain't go no goddamn where, who ain't moved a foot off of the goddamn American soil. Y'all niggas is crazy as fucking hell.
Come on.
I have to tell y'all that. It's like you sitting on everything that they have brought forth. I ain't even tell you Dr. Khalid Muhammad. Come on, man. Khalid will be smacking the shit out y'all right now.
Do I get to respond to this?
Yeah, but Dulcinea, do you mind if I, excuse me, Senator?
Okay, yeah,
thank you.
go and
Yeah.
Top Cats, please let Top Cats go too. But yeah,
Yes, but I did want to show this information, and that's all I want to do. This is thank you. This is not a biased website. This is not any. You can go look it up yourself. This is a live science right here. Step pyramid, 4,700 years ago. Then when we go and clearly there, we already know that. We've already discussed that part. Then when we go and we look at this so-called information, and I'm not saying she's not an archaeologist, but if I play the game that Abos play, where they don't trust anybody or anything unless they agree with what their narrative, their false narrative is, then if I play that game, I can play it very well, because this is a woman who's a Peruvian she's not black, or she's definitely not a black Abo. She's a, what you're saying, you're saying she's not an indigenous person. From what I know, your narrative, you say she's a fake Native American. Some of you do. Some of you have acquiesced and you can't fight the truth. So you say, oh, they also were here with us. So this is the woman that they're quoting, and they're saying that Ruth Shady, this archaeologist who was awarded, she received an award from UNESCO, but they don't trust UNESCO. See the tangled web they weave when they practice to deceive the people. And thank you, Senator, for going in on that. You're absolutely right. And you didn't even mention the disrespect to the actual ancestors who were on the Middle Passage. But I digress. So this is Ruth Shady, that they rely on her information. She's not a black Abo. UNESCO is a government agency. That's the United Nations. You don't like the British Royal Society. You definitely must not like the United Nations, right? You got to throw them out too. But this is the information they use. But even when they use this information, when we scroll down, and this is a website praising the woman, so it's not anything slamming her. It says right here, in 1994, Shady made her career breakthrough with Project Corral. That's where these pyramids were found. It says Corral's architectural construction, which would be the pyramids, correct, was undertaken between 2627 BCE and 2000 BCE. Now, Dulcinea was saying that I might be having problems with the math. What do you say? Okay, because that says 2627. That would put it around, if we go back as far as we can, that'll put it around what? 4627, 4,260, right? You get what I'm saying? Or let's see, let's round it off to what? 4,300 years ago? And it says here, as I showed before, that the Pyramid of Djoser is dated around 4,700. But you know what? I'll acquiesce. I'll jump in and give you, I'll give you they're at the same time. They were built at the same time. So your information has officially been debunked. You can come back with some more sources, but I'd like to see you present some sources that don't have any ties to the government agencies that you say you don't trust, the white people who you say you don't trust. I want to see a non-Caucasian, I'm landing my plane, King. I want to see a non-Caucasian face, not a Peruvian woman. I want to see a black Abo come up with the information, because at this point, you're using the information that you say isn't valid.
Okay.
Real quickly, because I just wanted to say to Moses, because you mentioned something about that, you know, that Dulcie and Freedom was mentioning something about, you know, pushing this, stay here, stay under white colonization and X, Y, and Z. But you do know that Africa is also colonized. You do know that, right? You do know that Africa not only has been colonized, but it's definitely now colonized by the Chinese. So I'm kind of confused as to why that was your talking point, or why you would even say that.
Okay. All right. But,
Okay, let me respond back, because I do this every time.
I got cut off, Dulcinea. What I was saying, I got cut off by my queen. Nepal cut me off as I was going in, and I'm like, damn, why stop me, man?
I didn't cut you off. Dulcinea cut you off, and then I came in behind her.
Yeah, it was probably me, but I don't understand why I never get to reply back.
I'm letting you go right after me, Dulcinea. I'm winding it down. I'm saying, like, the names that I mentioned, Dr. Benz and Amos Wilson and all of these great men, don't you know that they were respected by white scholars all over the world? Even they would come and listen to them and pull up their information to see what was going on. And so now we sit back here, we listen to the Top Cats. I got Top Cat in the building. Shout out, no slight at the Top Cat. But these are men that went around the world on fact-finding mission. Who up here can defeat a mind like Dr. Amos Wilson? Who? Which one of y'all?
Top Cat.
Which one of y'all could defeat a mind like Dr. Francis Cress Welsing? Who? Where you at? Dr. Leonard Jeffries, who have been teaching in colleges for years. All of these grandmaster teachers somehow miss that we are some goddamn Indians. Huh? Talk black to me. Like, these grandmaster teachers miss that we are Africans, that they got the story wrong about the slave ships and all of this stuff. Like, come on, man. Y'all, my people, man. I'm just disgusted right now, upset at our people right now. I still love you, though. I'm not saying I'm hating you. I love y'all. But it's like we going backwards again. We taking steps backwards again. That's what we're doing. And Dulcinea, I'll pass you the mic.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You know, I want you to notice how I sit back and I don't cut people off and I don't say, "Sorry, you're gonna lose me. I ain't coming back." But anyway, I just want to say, first off, Sister Nepal, I get what you're saying, but that UNESCO thing, it wasn't me. You were addressing Aboriginal power the whole time. I put the things in the back, and I did agree with you that a lot of it is going to say that it's around the same time, but there are some archaeology that is dating it to 5,000 years, and I put them in the back as well so people can know where my source is coming from, and it's not coming from UNESCO. But I just want to say with it, before I pass it over to Big Chief Top Cat's piece, I think it's crazy that, like, Dane Calloway is even being brought up. And the main thing of why he's being brought up is not because clusters are following after him. It's because we started to have these people that are coming back and say, well, what did your family say? Who is your actual family? What is your story? Rather than these people that are all trying to lump us in and say we all have the same story, even though they know we don't, because they know their story is different. So I don't see anything wrong with people gravitating to Dane Calloway. We see that people are doing it because people want to know who their family is, and that's where people are getting their messages from.
Dulcinea, I'm also waiting for that information in regards for Wolof being a travel agency.
Yeah, I'm reaching out to you personally with that because that's someone's personal information. So you can go, and I'll let you sign up for that Pan-African courses where they talk about it all for you.
All right, Top Cat, got the floor.
Okay. Hey, but I got a question for both Top and Dulcinea.
No problem. Peace to the panel. Good conversation from Dulcie and Sister Shatter. Shout out to everybody on the panel. Brother Lai, before I get into my bill, you just brought up said that was a language. Well, that language was actually started by Quakers. Look up Hannah Kilham. She's a Quaker that worked for the Society of Friends. That's who came up with the language during the Niger expedition, where they had a language barrier. So that's the way that they taught the books. So if you go look it up, the first books that was written in the Bible, that's how they went in and colonized the people. But I do want to say this here.
Takat, since you wanted to mention my name, Takat, the difference is this. I speak Wolof. Do you speak that language?
Listen, sir,
I'm
Wolof
asking
was
you a simple
created by
question.
white folks.
Can you count to 2 for me?
It was created by
3,
white folks.
5,
If
anything.
white folks taught you how to count to 2, brother, good for you.
Listen to what I'm asking you, brother.
Listen, brother.
Let him get it
Yeah,
out.
let it go. Let it go.
Yeah, brother.
All right, Salaikum Salam. All right, so Brother Reggie brought up Egypt. So the conversation was actually on Egypt. And we're talking about the first pyramid that Imhotep built. But what people are not saying is that Egypt outsourced their material. So let's talk about the cedar. The cedar that's in there. The cedar was transported from Lebanon. We know that Egypt was not a seafaring people. That's why Egypt don't have colonies around the world like the Romans did, like the Greeks, like the Mayans and the people that came from the Americas. All right. So we can also prove that through their gods. I mean, if I can source up, I'd rather source up. You know, I don't want to do no talking. I want to source up.
So you don't say that Kemet had a fleet of ships ever? They didn't have a navy?
No, ma'am. They outsourced their fleets of ships, and that's how they were sacked. That's how they ended up getting sacked by the same people who they outsourced their ships from. Same as in the Bible with the Hebrews.
Didn't have a colony in Byblos.
Byblos was not a Byblos was a Phoenician colony, right? Okay. Byblos was a Phoenician colony, brother.
Who are Kemetic? Come from Kemetic people.
Byblos was a Phenician colony.
Phoenicians are Kemetic people, bro.
Phoenicians are not Kemetic.
They are descendants of Kemetic people, bro. Kemetic leaders is making babies with outside nations. They are Kemetic people.
One second, Moses. Can we get him to share his screen so we can see it for ourselves?
This is beyond crazy.
Y'all let me know if I'm up. Y'all let me know if I'm up. Am I up?
Yeah, we see that.
Yeah, we can see it now.
Okay. So first off, when we talk about Senefra and Khufu and them building their pyramids, they built the pyramids was bent. They also used wood that was outsourced. Okay, now despite the towering reputation since Napash, shout out to Napash, she said History Channel is a unbiased source. So we're gonna go by the unbiased source, right? Despite the towering reputation of Egypt Great Pyramids of Giza, the America actually contained more pyramid structures than the rest of the planet combined. Okay, that's for one. Now let's talk about this connection with America and Egypt. Because first off, y'all gods coming from America. That's why Khnum is a big head dragon, and he's the one that handcrafted everybody together, right? He handcrafted mankind, but he's a big head ram, which is indigenous to North America. All right, let's talk about the Cholo dog. Well, what about Ramses the second? We find pineapples, grapes. We find all of these New World. We find all these American, indigenous to American produce coming from here. Also, when we go to Hatshepsut, we find corn, Indian corn, which was domesticated here in the Americas. We find corn, we find pineapples in these offerings coming from her. And she said her gods came from a land of Punt, not Egypt. Okay. Now we also can talk about Dr. Michelle in 1992, right? When the institution of forensic and medicine in Germany, they end up testing these mummies and found cocaine, and also they tested over 134 mummies. All right, and they revealed that they had cocaine and nicotine, which is indigenous to the Americas. Hold on, I'm almost done. So I'm gonna get your biggest god now, Osiris. Osiris is the green man. Why? Because he is the agriculture god. He's also a resurrection deity. Every resurrection deity is a deity that's associated with corn. How do we know that? Well, we see Osiris here at Karnak, and what do we see? We see what they call Turkish wheat. But it's really Indian corn. Turkish wheat is just translated in Indian corn. So what we see is this resurrection deity along with Jesus and all other deities. If you're a resurrection deity, then you are an agriculture god. What is that agriculture? It is corn. And our source is the Brooklyn Museum where Reggie Holt tours it with the corn mummy in there. And this is Osiris. Okay. The image of Osiris made of grain, wax, contained wooden coffin, and we know that y'all got y'all wood to build the coffins out of Byblos. Again, outsourcing. All right, I'll land right there. And I ain't got too much time, but our work is easy work.
Yeah, I just need to come in real quick and tell you something, Top Cat. I actually teach that information. Yes, but all of that information doesn't prove anything besides that.
Prove that America is older than Egypt.
Brother,
Egypt is a colony to America.
Brother, it shows that there's a connection between Kemet and the Americas. And yes, I believe, Reggie can correct me, I think it's Tutmosis the father of Hatshepsut. I'm almost sure that he had a fleet of ships. He didn't outsource them. So just all the information that you presented, shows that there's a tie between Kemet and the Americas. It doesn't prove. Well, I didn't interrupt you though, Top Cat. I have a lot of respect.
You know I have love for you in the podcast.
I have love for you too, brother. I'm gonna land my plane anyway, and you could come right in.
Yes,
but
ma'am.
It's not show. I agree with all that information, but it doesn't show that the Americans or the people of America predate or are not connected to Africa. It actually strengthens the argument that Africa is connected to the Americas, specifically Kemet. So I'm done. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Hold on 1 second, Moses.
Can I clear up some points?
I'm gonna close.
I only got 1% of my phone. Can I say something?
No, hold on. Let me close real quick. Okay, now you're right about that. It does show a connection, Sister Napa, but we don't see Egypt coming over to America. We see all of America going over to Egypt without science. Without the agriculture, you would have never been able to stay in one spot long enough to build those magnificent pyramids like Giza. One more share before I leave, and this is Reggie. Since Reggie was talking,
he's not going to present any, Reggie. He's not going to present any, Reggie.
Reggie brought up the Afri people.
Don't ask him that, man.
Let me know when I'm up. Okay, I'm up right
we
here.
See it.
They wanted to know who were the mound builders of America, right? So these secret societies getting together. They wanted to know who the mound builders. So they got in contact with the French. If y'all go back to the French, if y'all know the history of the French, starting from the Franks, with Matilda and them. So right here, you promised in the letters, he wanted to send him the letters about the descent of the Creek Indians actually being the descendants of Carthaginians who had separated from Hanno's fleet. Now, this source right here is coming out of the National Archives. Now, who is Hanno fleet? Hanno is said to be the first guy to navigate to Africa. Africa was not a seafaring people. That's why we do not see colonies of Africa around the world. That's why all Africa theories are Africa actually walking out of Africa. Hold on, y'all. One more. I got 10 seconds. 10 seconds. This is my last one right here. 10 seconds. This is a primary. This is what you call a primary right here. 10 seconds, y'all. And I'm gonna close. Put me up on the screen. I'm sharing my screen. 10 seconds right here. All right. So I'm in Mexico City at the Anthropology Museum of Mexico, right? Now they're the leading on all of the Mayan and all of this talk, right? But guess who you see when you first walk in? Guess who you see? You see the mother of Africa. Now I want to know who had sex with her. Somebody got to come clean. If she the mama, one of y'all had to do relations with this lady. If we look like we look at today, I'll say that. And hold on. And then Shanetta said, why weren't the scholars teaching us about the Abo history? Well, today we hear Professor James Miles, one of our elders, talk about he's from the Shakora Nation in South Carolina, right? I'm sharing my screen also. He from the Shakora Nation. We had Dr. Kaba, Booker T. Coleman. His family is Creek. He had like 3 on his mother and father side. All right. Renoka Rashidi, y'all brought him up. He grew up, his family told him he was Cherokee. And then later he learned about it. Shaka.
Great.
We lost audio.
Okay, I'm back.
And that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
This is me right here at the Pyramid of the Sun. They asked who do the work. I did over 20 tours in 2 years. So yeah, people could listen to legendary Top Cats. We're not throwing away Dr. Ben and none of them people because I'd be alive if I said I never learned anything from them. And Dr. Clark is my favorite scholar. I land on that.
Okay,
I
would like to just quickly respond. So let's just say,
Oh my God.
Peace, family. I'm gonna leave. This was great. Thank you so much, Dulcinea and Shatter and everybody. Top Cats. I need to have a sit down with you, brother. I've been telling Sonetter, so we're gonna have to do that. And just I'm taking off. Peace.
All right, y'all, we gone.
All right, peace, Sister Nepal. Peace, Big Chief, Top Cats.
Everybody he named.
Okay, so
went back to Africa. I don't even know what he's talking about.
They still said they got family.
I'm responding to Top Cat. Okay, Top.
It keeps muting on you, so you're muted right now.
Sonetta, I'm responding to Top Cat real quick. First thing he came on is saying the ancient Egyptians were I keep getting muted. I don't know why. The first
I don't know
thing,
why either, because Sonetta's not on here. But is it your screen showing? Because nothing's showing either.
don't know why.
All right, Reggie.
Yes, you
let
keep muting.
Let Shatter speak first. Let her speak. This is her show. She was waiting. Go ahead, sister.
I was only just going to say that those same scholars that he announced also gave tribute and respect to their African ancestry, and they connected the dots. Dr. Renuka Roshidi did a whole expose on himself with that. I mean, I don't know why we want to be surface level. Go deeper, people. We're better than this. We're stronger than this. We come from a line of things. And Sister Freedom, I think I heard you. But my thing is, we're all of it. It's not one subject of it. I started this show off with Dulcinea saying, when we speak of these things, let's be reflective of the timeline in which we are speaking. And I also said, I'd love to start at the beginning. When the Sister Dots asked about, well, why wouldn't 1500 be enough for you? I like the beginning. And the beginning so far still brings us to the oldest bones. Top Cat, I don't know where you just popped out of from, but I said that I do believe that, yes, the Outer Africa theory is real and true, and even the devil will have to share some truth at one point. Do we look like that? I disagreed with what we looked like. I don't know where they got that image from, right? I don't. But the further back in history go, the blacker we get. And I'm going to stand on that. That's just that. That's just that. And I'm going to encourage everyone, get a passport if you don't have one, and go travel. Go see the different countries, go see where we have migrated to and from, and draw your own conclusions looking on the different cultures and seeing the similarities. And there are some differences, as there should be, because of the regional areas of where we are. I'm not going to look for the tropics in New York. Okay? That is just not going to happen. But are we distant relatives? Yes. And I'm going to stay on that. I don't understand where we keep blurring the lines and getting confused. And I definitely stand with Sonetta on, we cannot disrespect the elders who came before us that have done the work. Leonard Jeffries is a magnitude of history. He is a walk-in encyclopedia. I have the pleasure of sitting with that man on numerous occasions. I would never disrespect the elder in that type of way. And although I have been able to trace my lineage, I still say start back at the beginning. My people go back to 1500. I don't know what happened 15,000 years ago. We're going to stop playing the game with this timeline business and stop playing the game of when science matters. Science matters all the way. Either we're going to use the science or we're going to discredit it and say no more science.
Can I ask you a question?
All right.
Wait, please, Sister Freedom. Wait, let Reggie go.
On, man.
See, every time.
Because I told the person who was next right after them. I said Reggie was next. I did say that. And nobody, y'all missed me on that?
Nope.
No, I was saying, I said, please, Sister Freedom, let Reggie go so we
Yes,
can
thank
go,
you.
please.
And then y'all could go. Go ahead, Reggie.
Okay, I'll be real quick, real short, right? Okay, so Top Cat told us all that the ancient Egyptians were not a maritime people. All right. So basically, from the first line of this source, right, of this source, it says the ancient Egyptians reached Byblos, which was a crucial trade partner primarily by maritime roads across the Mediterranean, right? The Mediterranean Sea. Byblos, located on the central Levantine coast, was an important harbor that became primarily favored Egyptian partner during the 3rd millennium BC. So then what we want to do is we want to just check some things, right? So I'll give you a source you can look at later.
What was
right?
that first source, please? Sorry, we couldn't see it.
The first source was from AI, but it led me to this source: Egyptian trade on the central Levantine coast during the early dynastic periods, right? And then we could search here. I don't have a lot of time, but we could see the relationship between what they call ancient Egypt and Byblos. Then, of course, you automatically can go to the Khufu ship, which was buried next to the Khufu pyramid, right? It's an intact ship, but it was in parts. It was in parts because they disassembled ships to go to places like Punt. So he's incorrect about that. I don't think that anybody should fight me about maritime trade to Byblos. Some of the other things he said, I think that Sister Shatter said really well about our African scholars, because during the time of our African scholars, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, right, there was no Abo scholar. There's still no Abo scholar. They're just young people, right, making commerce, right? But they don't have a great scholar. Dr. Ivan Van Sertima is not their scholar. He is our scholar because the trip starts in Africa, right, and ends up in the native in North and South America, or really in the Caribbean. Ivan Van Sertima is our scholar. So I could keep going on and on. But the first thing is, if a person gives a first untruth, then everything else that he says, right, if his first comment is untrue, then you can suspect that everything else that he said was untrue. Thank you, Sarnetta, for the time, and I'll listen.
Robin, you got the floor.
I'm trying to wait till all that gets off the screen. Okay. Shatter, when you first stated that we were all of that, if you look in the chat, I agreed with you, because I say that all the time. When you also said that we are from the entire planet, I agree with that, because that's something that I always say as well. That now the part of us migrating out of Africa and becoming all over the world, no, I do not agree with that. But to say that we from all over as original and an indigenous people all over the world, yes, I will agree with that. What I also want to say to you is, because you cannot take your family back past the 1500s doesn't mean that they weren't still on this land. I'm also going to say that it was told to you that I said something derogatory concerning Africa. Never did I say anything. You don't know me. It's the reason why I'm saying this. I've never said nothing negative concerning Africa, except that I don't believe that the Atlantic slave trade on the oceans went the way that it did. Now, if that's saying something bad about Africa, then oh well. And I'm also going to say to you, Moses, I don't appreciate you saying, I don't even know where you was going with the Bible and all this here kind of stuff, but to accuse me of saying something about Africa and then can't tell me what I said about Africa, except I don't agree with how we supposed to came over here in the boat. I just don't believe that many could have taken place and how it happened. but that's not saying anything bad about Africa. And for Sanetta, I never disrespected any of our teachers or teachings. So, you know, I'm just as old as Sanetta and Reggie and have fought for many, many, many years. So all that they're saying, I don't know why it's being said. I don't have to agree with them. I don't agree with them. And it's just simple as that. And I'm on these lands. This is where I'm going to be. You know what I'm saying? I'm not moving over to Africa, and neither is Moses, because he keeps talking about it and haven't done it yet. It just takes a passport and some money. Just
It's
go.
a mass exodus. It's a mass exodus. Stop it. Stop it. We all know that individual movement in Africa, that mess don't work.
I'm going to keep eating what I eat at my little 60, almost 60
And
years
you the reason why we still in this white supremacist construct. All of y'all that think like you the reason why your boys, you the reason why your sons is getting damaged by these white supremacist doctors. You the reason why your sons is getting hurt by these police. You the reason why your sons is ending up on this.
Wait, Moses, hold on. Let Sister Freedom finish. And then you can ask your question.
That I am not the reason why the undone treat us the way that we do. I think we're all the reason why, because we don't stand up and fight for the things that we want. That's I think we're our own worst enemy, if you ask me.
Yeah, stop.
But you just said you ain't going to Africa, so you the enemy.
Wait,
You talking about not going to Africa, but you still here, brother.
Everybody stop.
It's a mess.
Stop, man. Moses, you're frustrated. You cannot blame one person for what's going on with our people. Stop it, man. This white man done destroyed all of us. All of us have a hand in our... Listen, Moses. Of course, we know that the white man is responsible for our downfall. But guess who's responsible for our liberation? We are. So stop trying to blame one person, especially a woman. Stop trying to blame a woman. If you say you the goddamn king, if you say that you the head, then stop blaming a woman, brother. It is not her fault. Come on. If I was to blame anybody, I would be blaming the goddamn man before any goddamn body. Us, the man who claimed to be the damn kings. All right, let Sister Freedom go.
The woman is the first.
Wait, Moses, and then let him ask his question after.
Go ahead, Sister Freedom. Go ahead. Freedom,
I know that we have been raised and I've raised and born over here in America. When I say that I'm African descent, I'm going to explain that to you and explain it one more good time. I've never been to Africa. I'm not born in Africa. I wasn't raised in Africa. But I'm not denying that I could have African roots. So what I say is that I'm African descent. Now I'm saying that because I have no connection where I've lived there and been there. So I'm not denying Africa. I'm just saying I'm not African because I've never lived there. And I have a right to that feeling. I live over here. So I have to be responsible. There you go, Sanetta. You're still doing it in some capacity. In some capacity. You're still doing it. But I have to be concerned about my kids, my grandkids over here on these lands. I can't be more concerned. There you go. You still doing it.
Yeah.
I cannot be more concerned about over there. And I live over here. Not that I'm putting it down, but I live here. I'm going to be more concerned about people somewhere else who ain't that concerned about me either. Let's make that
Freedom. That's what I'm talking
about.
Now,
wait a minute. And then I'm supposed to be more concerned about over there than I'm here.
That's
he
what
just said, wait a minute.
You know?
He just said over here, we are getting police brutality. Over here, we are not being treated right by the undone man. Over here is where we are doing the fighting. Over here is where our people died for us.
Freedom, let me say this wise.
Can I finish?
Yeah, I'm gonna let you finish because this is a going back and forth now, Sister Freedom. This is the point that we're trying to make. When you make statements like that,
I'm not lying. This is my belief, though.
I get you. You dealing with belief. See, that's the problem. You caught up in the belief.
I'm for real. I live over here, and that's not a belief.
All right, sister. Let me just say this, please.
It's a fact that I live
Let
here.
me say what I got to say right quick, while me and you can have
I know.
because
you
because you keep saying I'm not against Africa. I'm not against Africa.
I'm not.
When you make statements like that.
Like what?
Let me tell you. Just let me tell you. When you say,
"Oh wow,
I've never been to Africa. I'm not over there. I'm not an African, but I'm African descent." Like that right there is crazy. When you
well, your boy Reggie said it.
I'm talking.
So why you ain't saying nothing to him?
Freedom. Can we talk without? Let me go back and so I can show you where you're making a mistake.
I'm not making.
Let me. Damn, you gotta let me talk now.
And so do you have to me.
Listen, I am. I'm gonna let you talk. First of all, Malcolm, you said you love Malcolm. You said you respect Malcolm. If a cat have kittens in the oven, do it make it biscuits?
Sir, you don't have
Malcolm is saying, you keep stop. So
wait, Sister Freedom, 1 second.
Malcolm is telling you it doesn't matter where you at. You still an African. Your ties, your land, your ancestors are still connected to you. Sister Freedom, we have lost our names, our religion, our culture, our God, our folkways, our mores, and our norms because of being stripped of all of that, Sister Freedom. You're not by yourself when you said, I haven't been to Africa. Damn near all of us over here haven't been, a lot of us, millions of us haven't been to Africa because we were stripped of that. We were taken away. We were taken away from our culture, our foods that we eat, the clothes that we dress by. All of that was taken from us. That don't mean we are not who we are no more. That's what I'm trying to tell you, Freedom. And that's when we say you hate yourself, even though you may say you don't, because you don't know nothing about Africa. Well, it's your goddamn job, Sister Freedom, to get to know about it. It's your job to educate yourself about it. It's your job to say, well, let me go over to Africa and see what I want to see. It's our job to do that, to make these connections back. We can't just give up and say, because I'm not over there, I'm not those people, but I am connected through the ancestors. No, that's a contradiction. Now, go ahead, Freedom. I'm going to let you go.
And please, everybody, allow Sister Freedom to speak. Every time she speaks, someone jumps in. So please, everybody, no matter
you're
what
not helping me, though.
allow
you put
her
words
to
in
speak.
my mouth
Okay.
is not helping me.
Okay.
If I listen, me saying that I'm African descent, it's not taking anything away from Africa. Not one goddamn thing is it taken from Africa. Well, what is it taken from Africa? I know just as much about Africa as you. I've had the same teachers that you have had. So for you to sit up here and do this whole preaching that you're doing, it's not going to change the fact that I still feel like I'm African descent. It's not going to change it. I don't have to go over to Africa to find out anything about Africa. I know the same things that you know about Africa is the same things I know. But I got to fight for where I'm at. Even if I say I'm Africa. Okay, me saying that I'm African, is that stopping the police brutality? If me saying that I'm Africa, is that stopping how the undone people treat us over here? Is it stopping it? It's not stopping it. Everything you saying that me saying I'm African is going to prove something. I'm going to go over to Africa and find out something about Africa that's going to make me live differently over here. Because Malcolm said when he went over to Africa and came back, oh, it don't matter because I still got to worry about my people over here because this is where I live at. I mean, you're going to tell me that they're more important than me over here? I'm not denying them. You ain't heard me deny them.
You did deny him.
Wait, Sarnetta, let her finish.
But I'm not African.
I can't say that I'm African. Guess what my African friends say? I'm not African. How about that?
Denying it then. That's
Listen,
denying
okay.
it.
Okay. Well, you know what, Sonetta?
You are
African
saying my
friends say
ancestors are
y'all not
African, but I'm not.
How can you be of African descent but not
Right.
connected to Africa? I just want to know.
I didn't say I wasn't connected to Africa.
Okay,
I
you said I'm not African.
I'm
Okay.
not, I've never. How can I say I'm African and I've never been there? I've never lived there. I wasn't born there. I don't know nothing like how they actually, over there. I got to say I'm African descent.
Okay.
You understand? Because I have, and now just say that I lived over there. I went over there. I stayed over there like you lived over there, but I don't know how long you lived over there.
I said it a little over a month.
Whatever your connection is to Africa, you understand what I'm saying? Bloodline wise, I can't find the connection.
So why say that you would be an African descendant if you don't?
Because my DNA says that I have some African in me, well, Nigerian in me, some different parts of Africa in me, but I don't have I'm just like you. I go to a certain extent of my bloodline, and that, you know what I'm saying? But me saying that I'm African descent is making a connection with Africa. But I can't say I'm African. They don't know nothing about no Africa living over there and stuff.
Okay.
But I'm going to say this, and I'm gonna die on it. So it's as simple as that.
I'm getting ready to drop down because it's getting late. Again, I just want to say to Dulcie and to Shatter, I really did enjoy the conversation. I really enjoyed hearing you two have this conversation. And again, it sounded, you guys agree on more things than there were any differences. And remember how you were talking about when you went to Uganda and they thought that you were Ugandan or what have you. I know I've been to Tanzania and East Africa as well. They didn't think that me and my sister were Tanzanian. But what's interesting is that other places that I have gone, like, when I'm in Colombia, Belize, when I've been in Mexico, for example, they think I'm from there as well. So I don't, so to your point that we've been here, I think that was stated. So it sounds like it's a value conversation more than anything.
Yeah, messed up, sis. Your mic messed up, Doc.
Your mic started messing up, sis. Dots. But yes, peace.
It sounds like it's a value conversation and what you choose to identify with. You know what I mean?
There you go.
And that's it. But I definitely enjoyed the build. And so good night to everyone.
Good night, Doc.
Good night, Doc.
Sister Freedom, you straddling the fence, Sister Freedom. That's what you
No,
do.
let me say, hold on. Before you start up, Sister Freedom,
Go ahead,
you like
go
to do
ahead,
that on
Dulcinea.
purpose.
Go ahead.
And then it ends up getting in the whole circle. But I wanted to say that too. I was meaning to say that to you earlier, Shatter, because y'all won't believe the Moors, but Sabir Bey, he says the exact same thing when he goes to China. He says the Chinese people tell him he looks like the original Chinese people, and they always think that he's from China. So that just reminded me of what Sabir Bey always says, that every time he goes to China, that the Chinese people ask him if he's indigenous. But I wanted to ask Moses, what was your question that you said you had for me?
Okay, so all right. I have a couple things to say to you, but this one question I did want to ask you, because I know you doing your research on South America. The pyramids that you speak of, which one of those are close to Brazil?
Well, I only spoke of the Corral in Peru, but I don't think they're too close to Brazil.
Okay, let me approach it from this direction. Incans, Mayans, Aztecs. What was the demise of these three empires here in the West? How did they end? Why did they end?
They ended because of warring and different issues they were having as far as with different people coming and trying to take over where they were. We see, they had empires, they warred with each other, as well as they had larger empires that people don't even speak of, where they were warring with the Spaniards, the Europeans, colonizers, and we can see them as far as those wars are their demise.
Okay, and I'm glad you said that, because it just reminded me of the movie Apocalypto that Mel Gibson did, and it leads into the statements that y'all making about, I'm talking about going back to Africa, but I ain't went yet. All right, so in the movie Apocalypto, you see the Europeans coming over here to the West, and the Europeans, the Pilgrims, the pioneers. The reason why they have their white supremacist construct standing strong over here in Incan, Mayan, Aztec territory, because they came over here in droves. Now, how is it that they was able to come over here in a foreign territory and establish a kingdom in foreign land, but we can't do the same thing, go to Africa in droves and establish an African American colony over in the area that we talking about every day? That, you know, that whole thing about you can get a passport, you ain't gonna build, none of us are gonna build a kingdom for ourselves by going over there as an individual. It's a mass exodus. Why can't we do what we saw the Europeans do to the Incans, the Mayans, and Aztecs? Because the indigenous Indians are not running this. The Mexicans are not running this. None of the people that you're talking about are running this. And I don't understand why it is that y'all abos keep bringing up this mess to us Pan-Africans when y'all ain't even in control of none of this. All of y'all sitting back watching white supremacy stomp on us for how many years now? And we still ain't got a clue of what it is we supposed to do. And we saw what the Europeans did. And then us going over to Africa, doing it the way that the Pilgrims did, we wouldn't even get any resistance. Especially if we got dual citizenship, the American dollar goes a lot further in Africa. So here it is, we make a mass exodus over to East Africa, and y'all acting like y'all black mothers, because I do believe Sonetta talking about you supposed to be the king, but he knows that the black woman is the first teacher of both female and male children. So if all the black women here seeing their babies ended up on drugs, ended up on liquor, ended up on all of this stuff that the white man is throwing at us, they harming us, just like Pharaoh said the other day. Y'all getting these epidurals in y'all spine when y'all go to have these babies. They killing your children at the gate. You up in a white man's hospital and your baby's getting killed at the gate. And Robin talk about, I ain't been to Africa. All that stuff, that's all cap, because all black women are worried about their children. But for some reason, none of y'all can come to the intelligent conclusion, because y'all all smarter than us. You're outnumbering us in the university. So if y'all so smart and y'all so intelligent, how come y'all ain't never came to the understanding that Marcus Garvey came to? So that's the reason why I asked you those questions, you know, as far as like, yo, how did
I'm gonna answer because you asked a lot of questions. So now I'm gonna respond.
All right.
So as far as when it goes back into the beginning of what you're saying, and no, we'll go at the end. Why can't we do a mass exodus? We can't do that because that's a figment of your imagination. You can't tell me the civilization that did it. You can't tell me how they did it. You can't tell me when they did it. That's why people can't do what other people are saying, because they sit here and believe things that never happened. And instead of actually looking into their family to figure out what happened, to figure out what happened to them and their family, they want to go and believe these fairy tales. So that's why there's no solutions. There's no solutions in believing a fairy tale and believing some group of people that we can't name, we can't tell the time period, came over here and beat everybody and took over the resistance and everything like that. And we don't really know what happened. What you'll end up finding what happened, if you guys actually researched and looked into this, is that the 1% isn't white people. They're the elite. They're not white people. The 1% is a conglomerate of people all over the planet. And let me say again, they're not white people. They're the 1%. They're all over the planet. And what they have done is they have monopolized companies. So you hear a name like Disney, you hear a name like CNN, you hear a name like Fox News, and you don't know it's one company that is over all of them. You don't know that what they have done to actually come against the people. You don't know what they have come to acquire land, to acquire money. You don't know any of those things because you haven't researched anything into the economy, anything into the people that have come against the people here. All you do is regurgitate what everybody else has said, which is belief. So I want to go back to as well of when we had Top Cats up here, and he was making my point is that there's other scholars saying the other side of the argument. And as soon as he presented all that information of the other side of the argument, it was shut down. It was like, oh, now these PhDs are not credible. Now these are just white people. Now this shouldn't even be talked about, when it's the same information being presented, but from the other side. And I think that's what me and Shatter were really talking about, of how are we going in without naming civilizations, without having a timeline to say, we know for a fact this is first, that is first. And Shatter said she's okay with saying that scientifically she believes with whatever mainstream science is saying, which I don't knock. That's her belief. My belief is not that. My belief is to make sure I look at all the information and find out what is best as far as a logical conclusion for me. But to your question, as far as moving back, you do not have anyone that has a blueprint of moving to Africa and being able to be successful. We know that Africa has the same colonization that is in all over the place. And we know there's no such thing as white supremacy. So now you would need to actually have a blueprint that works. And if it was to work, then you would be doing it with your family. But if you're just preaching to the choir or preaching to people to do something that you yourself are not willing to do, you'll never be able to convince us that that's the answer. That
Okay,
you're not
so Dulcinea. So Marcus Garvey had a blueprint. Why the federal government decided to shut that down? And why are we not revisiting that blueprint?
Marcus Garvey was right with UNESCO and the federal government. He did not have a movement that was for the people. He had a movement that was right alongside the government.
That's cap. That's all cap. If he was with UNESCO, you got all these white folks that be telling us to go back to Africa, but for some reason we ain't go back to Africa. They gonna stop their own man from getting that. What you said don't make no sense.
Africa. The people didn't want to go back to Africa.
That's a lie. That's a lie. They ended up not going back to Africa because the man went to jail and he got sent back to Jamaica and was unable. He was character assassinated. He was character assassinated by people like you and Top Cat.
We're not getting on the ship to go back to Africa.
The ships wasn't even done. He wasn't even able to fulfill that.
The pastor he ended up turning against gave him so much money towards that ship himself. And he actually came against Marcus Garvey to say that he was using that money for illegal purposes, and then he became dead all of a sudden. But we won't go into that.
Federal government.
All we'll go into the fact is that there was a ship and people weren't on that ship, and they had a choice.
They did.
Dulcinea. Wait, hold
Sonetta,
on. Hold on, Brother Reggie. I'm sorry, Dulcinea. Let's not reference Top Cat because Top Cat used sources, or rather, he mentioned our Black historians who give credit back to the continent. I don't think that he is a good.
Well, no, I was talking about his sources in his presentation. He didn't use sources from the people that referenced the continent in the presentation. He referenced sources that were different collegiate figures that talk about different information about Mexico, different information about it all starting in America first, then it made its way to Kemet. We know as far as what he presented about Hepashit is the correct. Egyptians actually went to the Phoenicians, and it was the Phoenicians that were the ones that were the seafaring people. We know that for a fact. So, but I was just saying that when we're talking about these sources, people tend to not like sources that don't prove what they're saying or go against them.
All right.
I will say that you brought Sean P up, and again, I ain't giving you the "you're gonna lose me, brother," but I will say that Sean P is very rude every time I've tried to talk to him. So I do ask that he refrain from cuss words. He refrain from ad hominem attacks.
No profanity.
Yeah, and then other than that, he's welcome to go. Right. But yeah, that's all I was saying is that people have books. They don't like the sources when the source doesn't say what they want to say.
Sean P, please refrain from talking to Dulcinea. Just drop the knowledge. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah. Peace. First of all, thank you for having me. I just want to say I sit here and entertain about 45 minutes of craziness. And I can't believe that Reggie didn't come off his microphone and address a lot of this. So I'm going to try to kill it slowly. First of all, anybody who uses Top Cats as a reference point for their information does not study. He's a plagiarist. For one, his book is horrible. He basically used information from Africa to present it to people in America and claim the identity as American Indian. Well, we know for a fact that there's a research methodology problem in our community, whether it be the sisters or whether it be the brothers, because they don't scrutinize their own belief system. So if I hold a belief, I'm going to test my belief. What are you afraid of? Dulcinea took her, and I'm not talking to her, I'm just using this as an example. She took a DNA test and provided you the evidence of the DNA test on this show. When she did that, she realized that she was over 80-something% African in her genetic makeup. This conversation that we're having, Sonetta, is a biological conversation. It's not a conversation about how I want to identify. It is what your 46 chromosomes say. It holds a deeper story. What you do is you add your genealogical history to go with that story that your genetics is saying, because they're married. When you try to break them up and divorce them, you get lies. So what we must do is quit the capping. Everybody, you are of African descent. There is a mere 2% of Black people in America that have Native American ancestry or that admix with these Native Americans. It's okay. It's fine. We ain't doubting them or putting them in the past of anything. So there's a few subjects that I think people should study. One, anthropology, whether it be cultural or just the basis of anthropology. Paleontology, which is significant because I'm talking about everything that has to deal with this. We ain't got to get you into linguistics. That's going to lose you. But archaeology is another one, and understanding the basis of genetics. So there's a huge issue in the community, and it's because we are illiterate in these categories, and it allows people to create their own argument. I'm gonna mute out.
Hey, yo,
Okay,
Sean
so
P.
let me
Hold up.
respond to
Sean
he
P.
said.
Sean P, you hear me? Put your number in the private chat so I could get you a show, man. You got to do a show. Put your number in the private chat so I can hit you up so we can do a show. All right, go ahead, Dulcinea.
Now, I can always tell people who did not watch that show about DNA because they always repeat what these other YouTubers have said about how much of African descent I had in my DNA because they never watched the actual show that I put out on Sonetta for a reason. They never heard any of the arguments because they're never going to listen to the argument. I even think really right now tonight, even though I respect my sister Shatter, I think even the argument is going over her head when it comes to autosomal DNA. But they'll say for a fact, just like Sean told you, which we all agree in, is autosomal DNA is from your mom and dad and your grandparents. So that means that it is your family lineage. Autosomal DNA is going to connect you to people. It cannot connect you to soil. It cannot connect you to flowers. It cannot connect you to the sea or the ocean. All autosomal DNA can do is connect you to people that share autosomal DNA with you. So that means that at some point they would share your mother, your father, or your grandparents, whether it be the first generation, second generation, third generation, fourth generation, so on and so forth. So when you are sharing autosomal DNA with people that come back on this test, the people will come back. It will show you the region. I had Scotland. It showed me my cousins in Scotland. I had this person. It showed me where these people are. The only thing it didn't show me is any Africans. Not one. Not one on the continent of Africa was shown when I took my DNA test. And that's all that they can tell you with autosomal DNA. All they can tell you is your relatives. So until it pulls up the relatives, I'm different from Sister Freedom, which I'm saying I will not say I'm of African descent until it proves it through family members, because I can prove that I'm Creole. I can prove that I have these white people. I can prove that I have these Caribbean people. But what I cannot prove is not a
Wait,
single African ancestor, not one.
What Caribbean people?
Can we see? Can we get that evidence?
Can
Yeah,
you
I want to see your hair. I want to see what kind of hair you got.
No,
You cannot have no non-ether hair talking about you not African, yo.
Hold on,
I have the same hair
Sarnetta, I have been waiting. Can I
presented
respond?
on the walls of the Mexican pyramids. I
You
have that
mentioned
same hair.
Caribbean. What Caribbean country?
Give me 1 second, sis, because I can show you which Caribbean it was. I had to pull it up on my side. Origins. I think it was Papua Guinea, but are around there. But let me look.
While she's doing that, can I respond?
Go ahead, brother Reggie.
All right, great. So this is where the rubber meets the road, and this is where pseudos die 1,000 deaths, right? So Sean, peace to you. How you doing?
What's up, Reggie?
All right, good. All right, so I said on a private phone call that I am of African descent, right? Meaning that I am not directly from the continent of Africa. So I'm African descent. Why did I say that? It's because I understand English. Anybody who says that they are African descent, but says then that they're not African, does not understand the English language. I'm gonna share my screen, right? And so that's what we're dealing with. If we speak English, then we should know the language of English. So if we go to the Commission of Human Rights, right, that was held in Geneva in 2003, right? If we go there, there's a working group of experts on people of African descent, identification and definition of people of African descent, and how racial discrimination against them is manifested in various regions. This is a working paper prepared by Ambassador P.L. Cassandra, chairperson of the working group on experts of African descent, right? So this is an international group of people dealing with African descent. And they talk about the first session of a working group. So what do they say? Identification and definition. The first thing they should start with is the slave trade. The slave trade is key to African descent. So anybody who's saying that they are of African descent, which I said I am, is connected to the slave trade. If you cannot say that you are African descent and deny the slave trade, right? So don't use the word African descent, right? And don't know the definition. The slave trade took place over a period of 4 centuries, from the 16th century to the 19th century. That's where it says. I'm not going to read all of it because I'm giving you the source. The estimation of the number of slaves exported to the Western Hemisphere varies from one source to another. Certain figures suggest that the final number was very high indeed. For example, between 1680 and 1786, a total of 2.13 million Africans were exported to the British colonies of America and the West Indies at an annual rate of 20,095. Annual. So you don't understand English. So I'm just going to come back and say what annual means. I hope you know what annual means. It means yearly. 20,095. About the year 1790, the total number of Africans exported by European countries to the Western Hemisphere reached an average of, I'm still sharing my screen, of 74,000 a year. Between 1690 and 1820, a total of 800,000 Africans were exported to Jamaica alone. These figures do not include those who died in transit or those who died before the start of voyages. Most of the slaves went to South America and the Caribbean, and somewhat smaller numbers went to Central America and the United States. People of African descent may be defined as descendants of the African victims of the transatlantic and Mediterranean sea slave. If you're going to use the word African descent, which I did, the definition is people of African descent may be defined as descendants of the African victims of the transatlantic and Mediterranean sea slave. The group includes those of sub-Sahara slave trade. I'm going to stop. I think I said enough.
Yes.
If you use English, then you have to go to definitions of English. You can't make up your own definitions. But we live in a make-up world. So if you have a better source on African descent, please show it. But if you
Reggie.
No, hold on for 1 minute, yo.
Can I say something else?
I can stop for Sean P.
Dulcinea.
Can I say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say
hold on,
stuff too about Shad.
I'm gonna let you go.
Okay.
Dulcinea, you are so proud to say that you are a part of all them other people. But when it came to Black or African, you said, I am not a part of that. I am not that. But you were proud saying that you were a part of these European groups. Sister, we gotta get you back. We love you, Dulcinea. And hey, we not blaming her. We gotta fight and get her back with this knowledge, man. Don't hate Dulcinea. Don't do none of that. We just gotta get her with the information, man, and show her and source it up. Hopefully, when she see the sources, she will hopefully go with the source, man.
The problem is y'all don't got no information. But Shatter, I said it wrong.
Information.
Yeah, y'all don't got the real information. Y'all got the beliefs. But I said it wrong or anything. It was that I have people. It wasn't Papua New Guinea. It was I have people all the way in Hawaii. I have Europe, and then Alaska, and then it's all.
See that? See how you proudly say I got Europe?
Okay, so let me answer that. Let me answer because I said proudly of all of them. You just said Europe that I was proud of. I said proudly of all of them. And why I'm proud of all of them is because it makes me live more like an African than any of you on the panel. Because people that are from Africa, like my husband that's from Zimbabwe, he knows that there might be something else in his lineage, but it doesn't matter because he goes by what his mama told him, his daddy told him, his grandparents told him. That's where they actually live and breathe into their ancestors. And what we're doing tonight is saying, oh, ancestors don't matter because I can claim John Henry Clark as my ancestor, even if I'm not related to him. I can claim Dr. Ben as my ancestor, even if I'm not related to him. I can claim King Tut as my ancestor, even if I'm not related to them. Now I don't even know my third great grandmother's names. But I can say I'm proudly King Tut. I'm in a representative of King Tut and everything that he did, and that's my ancestor. And then when I say, okay, what's your third great grandparents' names, or what even are you doing to learn those names? You're saying, why is it important? Why should I care? I'm not even trying to learn those names. So yes, I say all of them proudly, everything that I really am, because I believe in ancestor veneration. And I don't believe it's because you should worship them as if they're like more than they were deities on the planet or anything, but they're your deities on the planet because they're you. Like the sister was saying when she went to somewhere and they were saying, oh, you look like us or whatever. Yeah, they tend to do that, especially the guys. I've had that all my life. I've been told that I look like I'm from at least 5 different African countries all over the thing. But I used to like when people would come to say I was Mali because I believed I was Mali. So when anyone it was like, you look like you're from Mali, I was like, that proves it. I told y'all I'm from Mali. But at the end of the day, the real thing is when I can prove it as far as through family, because family's all that matters. And family is your real story. You cannot know what happened to you, nor can you know the solution, like Moses is saying, if you're not actually looking into your family, because it's your family origins that's going to be your story. And everybody else wanting to say we have the same story or we can bring her back in. You don't have the same story as me. I already know. Like, I've gone back to find Jacobites in my family. Do you guys have Jacobites in your family? Crickets. And the Jacobites have their own story. They have their own history of how they made it here in America. And that is something that I have to go and research because it's my family. It's not your family. And I can be proud of their story of how they got to America. And I don't have to hate anyone in my family, whether I don't plan on being like them or anything. It's part of my story. So I accept all my story.
But see, when you don't, can I now say something, Sonetta?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Now, Brother Reggie came on and explained what he was reading about African descent, which I have no problem with, because at the same time, the only thing I said again, not that the the Atlantic slave trade didn't take place. I just don't believe it took place the way that it stated. Does it? What he said, I'm going to agree with, but just that part, just the amount part. And I have a right to that. But nobody, can I finish? Nobody said anything because he read that. Nobody jumped on him and said, no, Reggie, you're either African. You can't say you're African descent. You can't say. Nobody did that. Nobody said not one thing to him. The moment I said it, bam, the whole preaching went.
But Reggie is not saying he's not African, though.
He said he's African descent.
Yeah, but he's still not saying he's not African.
Well, you missing the point.
You saying you're African descent, but I'm not.
I explained. No, listen, Sonetta. I explained why I said that. I said because I wasn't born there. I wasn't raised there. I didn't never live over there. So I can't say that I'm African, but I can say that I'm African descent. That's what I'm saying. I have a connection with Africa. Maybe it is because of the Atlantic slave trade, and some of the people came over and had sex with the people on these lands. However it went, I'm still saying to you, he's not saying he's African either. He said he's African descent. And I'm not picking on Reggie. What I am saying is you picked on me when I said it, but you didn't pick on him when he said it. But I guess
they're not going to understand it.
And don't want to, but I guess it goes back to something Nepal be saying all the time. I don't even want to bring it up, but how it's good for one, but not for the other. But it's all good.
All right, so watch this. Dr. Reggie.
Reggie, I'm not coming for you because I said something about what you said. Reggie? I'm talking about how
let me say one thing to the chat. Sakpase means what's up in Haitian dialect of Creole. It means what's up. But the Haitian dialect of Creole is not the New Orleans dialect of Creole. And my people are from Louisiana, but Creole is not Creole all the same, but it's all
right. All right. Dr. Reggie, I'm speaking to you, brother.
Yes, sir.
Face up, man. I need to see your face, brother. Come on, Reggie. Are you African, Reggie?
100%.
That's not what you told me on the phone earlier. That's not what you said to me on the phone earlier.
Because I am African descent, I acknowledge that I come from Africa. So
that's not what you said on the phone earlier, but
do you want me to talk about all of our private conversations?
We ain't gonna do that.
I didn't ask you to talk about all of our private conversations.
So I don't want to talk.
That's all I did. All I asked you was that question. That was it. Let me move on to Neil Spite. What up, Neil Spite?
Hey, what's up, family? I want to ask Brother Moses a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, fam, I'm listening.
All right. So at some point, because we know that the general consensus of us, we are known as African Americans. We agreed upon that to be our name. We was using the word Africa way before Jesse Jackson. So those people with that nonsense, we can go back in our history and see Africa all over us as a name for us. So as we agreed as a total group, these little minor little fractions of people, these American and all this stuff, is going to be a time you think where they just got to have their own politics, be separate from us, deal with issues on their own. They're not a part of our major collective body that we are called African Americans.
I might have misunderstood the question, man. You gotta say it again. I don't think I understood.
So I'm saying, you know, you got all these people on here with these different viewpoints. We're not African, and the third. So there's going to be a time. There's not a lot of them. They're like small little cults in the African American total sea. So it's gonna let's let them go. Let them go on their own and see how they like to live on their own without our support. And we don't need them because they don't like us. Period. As if you think it's gonna be a time come where we just gotta let them go on their own.
Yeah. According now, like I say, you know, I understand the Bible from a biblical, an African viewpoint, and according to the African viewpoint, the Bible calls them Josephs, but it's about African people that was over here, and they were making marriages with these Black Indians, and there was 2 children that came out of that union. There was children that came out called Ephraim, and another children that come out called Manasseh. Now, if you look at like the whole 12 tribes of Israel, like the 12 sons that was supposedly born, these are African tribes in the book of Genesis, and Genesis is the beginning of the book. In the end of the book, there's the book of Revelation, and you're going to see them same names, but one name is missing. You're going to see the name Dan is missing. It's replaced with the name Manasseh. Now, those two children that was born from Black Indian and African Union, the Ephraim stayed here in the West, and the Manasseh is the one that went back to Africa. And that's the reason why you see Manasseh in the book of Revelation, in the new kingdom, in the resurrection of the kingdom. You don't see Ephraim because them particular Africans want to stay over here with their wicked ass family. So yeah, brother, to answer your question is yes, we are going to have to let them go. And that's the sad part about Dulcinea and not claiming Africa. She talking about family, but she don't recognize Africa as her family, and she thinks that the Bible is a fairy tale book because she let white supremacists teach it to her in a fairy tale manner. If she really understood what that book was saying, her and Sister Freedom wouldn't be up here talking that mess. They would resurrect Marcus Garvey's blueprint and make it better for their babies, for their descendants, but they not on that.
I never said Africans weren't my family. Okay, I have an African son. But
you're gonna kill them. You killing them.
Hold on, Moses. What I said is that with autosomal DNA and with genealogy, the only thing you can have is family members. I have not found on my side of the family, because I know my husband's side of the family, which I am partly his tribe. I'm married to him. I have a child by him. I know his tribe. I know his family history. It's passed down. So I don't not have family that's African. What I don't have is a bloodline that is African, and I won't claim to have a bloodline that's African based on fairy tales. If I have a bloodline,
let me ask you. Let me ask you, because this is my question.
One second.
Okay.
I want to say something to your point, and then yes, Neil, ask the question. But I want to say, because you guys are saying, oh, don't we need to let them go because they're clinging on to us? You guys are clinging on to us. It's not the other way around. We
never clinged on to y'all.
We're already in our own culture and our own families. Like,
where?
I don't get you guys.
Where? Y'all don't have a culture. Y'all have fantasy. Y'all claim to be Indian. The Indians enslaved y'all. They'll tell you the Redmond. Y'all claim to be here. Y'all not even here nowhere. Is it respected in y'all mythologies and y'all talking? It's respected, but on the map, it's not respected. There's no Black, Indian, indigenous, nothing. That's all poof fantasy.
Well, you're talking about Native Americans, which they aren't actually even seen as the American Indian. You will see that even in archaeology, which you guys are pushing to study. But right now, there's parts of Native Americans that are reaching out because they want to get certain bones. They want to get certain findings that are in museums in their tribe. And the archaeologists are saying, you know what? We don't believe it's you. We don't believe that you're the actual family members of these bones. We don't believe that you're the actual family members of these findings that we have. So you got to prove it. So we know right now, even Native Americans are struggling with that because of the fact that they're trying to get different archaeology, different things that of ancient times. And the archaeologists are saying, okay, We don't believe this is associated with this haplogroup that you are. We don't believe it's associated with the way you've come here. So I get it.
I don't
You don't
disagree
have
with
to
none of
hold
that. I
on.
don't
I
disagree.
haven't
All right,
finished.
hold
I
up.
haven't finished talking. I haven't finished talking. So I understand as far as a lot of people that are misinformed and don't research themselves, so they don't know Native Americans, they don't know what $5 Indians are, they don't know any other role but the Dawes roles, and they're like, oh, I have it all summed up from there. But what you're saying as far as that we're not respected or the narrative is not respected, it's only not respected amongst people that are not you. It's respected amongst your family. So if you go back to your family, if you're at your family cookout, if you're at your family reunion, if you're on your family land, your bloodline is respected because that's your family. But as soon as you want to go outside of that, of course, we don't know if it's going to be respected because you're trying to go outside of your family to get respect.
All right, let me go down to Sean P. What up, man?
Yeah, so appreciate that. So real quick, there's a lot of talking about DNA and then claiming that autosomal is the only way to actually prove ancestry, but it only does kinship. So I want to just put this forth to everybody that's listening tonight. If you're unfamiliar with something, you just ask a question and you can get an answer. There's something called identity by descent. This is significant in answering a lot of questions about population genetics, which actually answers the questions that people on the panel may avoid when it comes to DNA. However, there's a lot of talk about identity, who someone is. So if that's your research question, then you need to write that down and follow an actual methodology to be able to answer the question. Then you have to do your background research. You can't act scientific and then don't use the scientific method, or you can't project scientific terminology and then deny it when it asks more questions for you to use in order to construct a hypothesis and then test your experiment. So real quick, I want to just make this plain and simple for people that don't really know this. You might have seen this before, and you're going to see it over and over, but it's called the hierarchy of science. And no, all of this stuff that other people are saying ain't scientific in its jargon at all, right? So you have to have actual real research to do these things. And I need to let people know that when we refer people to YouTube or people like Top Cats and other people that got a lot of stuff to say, no, you have to disregard any of them because they don't use a scientific method. They use lookership and they continue to project their assumptions on the people. By the way, everything that these people claim to be in the identities when they go to Mexico and look at those, what they call pyramids and tombs and stuff down there, the people that were there thousands of years ago are still there in the millions. And they don't know who you Black people are that went down there to look at all of their sites. They think that you're tourists. They even said that themselves. So I just want to leave everybody with this. There's always a place to start when you're dealing with history. So you need a historical methodology to be able to answer your research questions to get to the truth of the matter. Like I said earlier, this is a biological conversation that we're having. We are the only people on the planet that are stressing over who we are because we lost our identity. Sonetta has already went on a soliloquy and told you exactly how he felt, and it was the truth. You can't give up who your ancestors were through the struggles and everything that they endured. Real quick, Sonetta, let me say this. So I gave y'all identity by descent. I can't share my other screen because I got to go out of all of that, but you can take this down, Si. So there's a historical DNA study that connects living people to enslaved and free African Americans at early ironwork. People are looking at genetic analysis to actually answer those questions between the relationships of our ancestors and who we are today. Denying all of that with the evidence is crazy.
All right, so I'm going to respond to what he said because this is exactly what they did to Chief Ali last night, which is showing no real evidence, just making non sequiturs about scientists in itself, making it so religious, going to scientific method. He said what I said about autosomal DNA. If he was a researcher that was going to refute what I said, he should have shown a source that refuted autosomal DNA that shows how autosomal DNA is going to prove you to be connected to a certain region. He didn't. All he did was preach, like someone mentioned in the chat, he is the little brother to Chris. So this is what the Chris and all the little Chris Mennonites do. They show no real information. All they do say is family. Do you see what he just did there, family? And then they show no sources to debunk what you said. They don't even address what you said. He brought up the scientific method. He's brought up the history of science. But my point of autosomal DNA still remains that it's
have
not
no methodology.
Hold on, Sean P. My point of autosomal DNA still remains. And if you wish to debunk it, I'm still here. And that is the point at autosomal DNA.
Look up
Is
identity by descent. That's
P.
the answer to your question.
Hold up. That autosomal DNA comes down from chromosomes given through your father and your mother's lineage. You get it from your grandparents. So how they show connectedness is how much shared DNA is of family members of that autosomal DNA. Please, if you're going to refute that, show me how they are not showing you people that you share DNA with, but they can tell you you're most likely from a particular region that doesn't have people that you share DNA with.
All right, Ross, you want to say something right quick?
Yeah, I got a question for the Abos, because I'm curious to how they was raised up, and I don't want this to sound like it's a silly question. I just want to know what their birth certificate say. Like how is they raised? I want to know what their birth certificate say.
My birth certificate, because I was born in 1988, it says Black. My mom's would have said Negro. She was born in 1955. My dad was born in 1950. He said Negro. My grandma was around 1916, so she was colored at the time. My great grandma's colored. So yeah, so it would be Black for me.
Yeah, and just to follow up, so when they say Black, who are those people referring to?
There were many people that they actually refuted in history and called them Black. We know as far as with the Negro, Black, and colored, they used that against the Africans that they brought here over the transatlantic slave trade. They used it against the American Indians that already lived here. They used it against the Native Americans that were Mongoloids that were brought here as well. They use those terms as far as rewriting their statuses.
Okay, well, thank y'all for allowing me to ask a question.
Oh, did you want?
But
I think you asked something about culture too. Did you have a question about that?
No, I'm just curious to how y'all was raised up, because if y'all live in America and y'all in your birth certificate say Black, I'm pretty sure y'all was raised like the typical Black Americans that's over here.
Yeah, I have
like y'all.
Are you familiar with African culture? Like my husband and I went.
The definition says
completely different.
I'd like to do a show with you sometime this week, maybe. So let me say this real quick. We got 5 hours in Dulcinea. Great show. Thank everybody for tuning in. So I would like to have Dulcinea and Shatter close this thing.
Well, is it over? Okay, I'll just next time I'll come on my own and do my own thing. I just wanted to show the thing about the ships, but we need to still talk about that.
Show it. Go ahead.
No. It's just that I don't want everybody leaving and believing that Kemet didn't have ships. In fact, they were some of the best.
Show it.
Go ahead.
Kemet didn't have ships. I must have missed that one.
Well, Top Cat came in and said that we didn't have, we really didn't have ships.
Go ahead, Nepal, show it.
It's gonna just be real quick, and you can do your own research. But this particular website is called exploration.marinersmuseum.org. It says, some of the earliest boats ever recorded belonged to Egyptians, Paintings depicting ships appear on ancient Egyptian vases and murals. I'm getting some feedback. I don't know if that's from my end, but anyway, it talks about the ships. It talks about how we started to make more elaborate ships with sails. I mentioned the father of Queen that's hard for me to say that. Hatshepsut. And her father also had a fleet of ships. We did all our own. We didn't hire sailors. I know you're closing the show out. I'll just come back and do a whole presentation on it. We didn't hire sailors. We had our own ships. We had our own transports. We did importing. We did all our importing to like the Mediterranean from Kemet throughout the Mediterranean back and forth. It wasn't just the Phoenicians. And Swanetta, I'd like to maybe come in maybe tomorrow or no, not tomorrow. I have a show, but maybe Monday and just do a presentation on this if I can.
Yeah, but you can also see the ships on the walls of Kemet too, though. Don't forget.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
Scott,
I mean-
let her know. I want to say one thing to Nepal before you go. Also, they had ships in West Africa, Nepal. The second oldest ship ever dug up was from Africa, and they got the pyramid boat in Egypt of Khufu. I mean, the boat of Khufu buried was real big. And last but not least, they got a dugout West African boat that got here from West Africa to the Americas 2 weeks faster than Vespucci's boat.
Yes, especially, and I'm glad you brought up. There's more information on the Khufu boat, and yes, you're absolutely right. So we did a lot of our own sailing. We were known, I say we, I mean Africans. We were known to be maritime people. So no, that is absolutely wrong and false.
All right.
Kemet had boats and we had sailors.
So the only one I need here is Dulcinea and Shatter. Everybody else, peace and blessings, y'all. I gotta have these two sisters.
Yeah, while
Hey,
people
but Shanetta, let me say this real quick before I leave.
It was nice to meet you anyway.
Hey, let me say this before I leave, though.
Oh, sis, go back to Africa and be quiet.
Hey, Shanetta, that biblical Paul, when he said, I suffer not a woman not to teach, he was talking to about African women that was in love with Rome. Right here on this platform right now, you got Dulcinea, Robin, Freedom. Dulcinea, Robin, Freedom. These black women with 9 ether hair ain't got no bed.
All right, come on.
Moses, take a bath. Be quiet. Take a bath.
Oh, Sister Freedom, it's cool. It's cool. I just want to say something really quick. I know
Y'all crazy, man.
I want to say Reggie brush his teeth.
Wait,
What
hold
you
on,
say?
Sister Freedom. I just want to say Sean P was going in the back chat, and no, I'm not afraid of you, Sean P. And I know you wished I would be the 13th person to tune into your lives, but the lives I tuned in got a little bit more than 13 people.
We're gonna talk about y'all on Unscrambled Minds.
All right. I know you are. I know. But Dulcinea, go ahead and close us out, please.
Yes, I want to say, Shatter, it was wonderful getting to talk to you. I really did like that it was a discussion that we were having at first. And I thought it was a good discussion. I believe that we don't always have to agree on everything, but I respect that you would at least hear things out. And then I think that we would get a lot further if we had more people that would just sit down and say, okay, now let's review these things. Let's come up with our own conclusions. Maybe your conclusions are different, but at least we're able to have those conversations. Because I think the main thing is where you're coming from is that there's a connection. And I think that connection can't be denied, no matter if you believe you started in the transatlantic slave trade, if you think you came before Columbus, if you think you were always here. There's bigger connections when we look out through history, and that's what people are trying to piece together right now as far as to get the real history of things. And I respect these conversations, but at the end of the day, I think we have to have priorities. We have to make the most important things the most important and then go down from there. And I can't see anyone saying there's something more important than their family. And if that is their truth, it's not mine. So when someone is coming, whether you feel like, oh my God, this person is listening to this person, they let this person come in their minds, we have to really think about the message that everybody is putting up and evaluate it. And if you see overwhelming people going towards one message, you need to ask why. And I can tell you that a lot of times the people's messages that you're not liking, that so many people are gravitating to, is because they're pushing them to go back to their home. They're not saying the whole, oh, we're all the same people. You need to follow me. I'm your God. That's what this community has been doing for years, saying the Black man is God, the Black woman is God, all this, believe that. But there has been a lack of people that said, hey, have you ever gone to your family? Have you ever even sat down and did your genealogy? Do you know who you really are? So, and I did want to reach out about that because I want to say how disingenuous Sonetta is for that. He sat down for at least 10 minutes before he started the show to say this isn't going to be a debate, ladies. Dulcinea, you always try to make it a debate when it's not. And then he put a vote to be like there's a winner, but there was no winners in a non-debate. We were just having a conversation. So, but at the end of the day,
there was no debate. I was just saying, because why you think I said ABOs or African history? So
I'm not an ABO.
African history
Sonetta,
the
I'm
African
not an
history,
ABO.
the African history won this right here, according to the people in the chat. That's
what
all.
does that mean?
It's not a debate. It means that you got to work a little harder, Dulcinea.
I'm not an ABO. I'm not an ABO.
Dulcinea, you're an ABO. Hey, Dulcinea,
I'm
you
not
are
an
a-
ABO.
you are
I'm
a-
not an ABO, Sonetta.
You
And that
are.
comes enough. I think that's where it is. Like I said, you guys ask what is happening where so many people are following like a Dane Calloway. It's because he's coming with real information. It's because he's coming with sources. It's because he's coming with different things to push people to go back to their family and learn the true history.
Hey,
And
Dulcinea.
y'all are still stuck on Aboriginal and
listen
Native
to me for a minute.
American. Y'all don't even know the
Dulcinea, did you know that Dame Calloway got busted and he was being sued for using someone's picture?
He won that case.
He won
it.
that case?
Yep, he did. He won it.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So anyway,
I don't know.
I think, research it. That's what I say. Y'all are supposed to be the top researchers. Research it. But anyways, like I said, people are pushing people back to their families, and that is gravitating. That message is gravitating around the community, especially around the younger generations. People want to know who they really are. And we can always give them a doctrine. We can always give them a Bible to say, this is who you really are. But when people are saying, hey, go talk to your uncle, and their uncle is saying the same thing, their aunts are saying the same thing, their grandparents are saying the same thing, it's making people reevaluate what they've always known to be true. So, of course, there's going to be some people that doesn't gravitate to them. They don't care about ancestor veneration or anything like that. They care more about what the college says, and that's for them. I think it's not about us to be separate or to hate each other. It's just you be in your lane, you focus on your people, and it's really going to be talking to a brick wall when you're trying to convince someone that cares about their family to care more about what they read in a book.
Yeah. Dulcinea, let me say to you that you stood on your square tonight. You didn't. I don't think I seen you show any emotion and get out of character. You did your thing, regardless of everybody coming and banging and just going against you, what you teach, not going against you, but going against your teachings. You stood your ground. You stood on your square, and I'm gonna say I appreciate that. You stood in the line of fire. Even my sister, when they was coming at her, she stood in the line of fire. She didn't get emotional. I didn't see either one of you sisters get emotional and get out of your character. You stood your ground, and y'all just fought back with the information. And so that is to be applauded for the people that's watching. And I respect that. Thank you,
And I
sister.
appreciate that. I tried to make it a conversation. So
Yes.
it's been a good conversation, Shatter. I really appreciate
I
it.
want
I
my
think we
sister
could do
Shatter.
more. And I really want to talk to you about Lucy in the future, but that's if you're up for it.
Well, it's really Dignish. Y'all kept saying Lucy, but it's Dignish. But go ahead.
Why is it Dignish? Why is it Dignish,
Well,
Sarnetta?
that's the proper name that they called it.
Because who? Because they found it where?
Hold on, you already closed out.
Yeah, because a white man led those Africans to find it, but that's okay. We'll see.
Topic. Go ahead, Sister Shadow. Close us out. Unmute yourself.
Y'all are so funny. It was a good build. I appreciate Dulcinea coming in and standing on what she believed, even in the disagreement. I still, it is what it is. And the people in the comments, they've been having me cracking up too. Y'all are live. Shout out to those of you who have been on with us for so long. I didn't even think we were going to be on this long. So that just shows you how deep this conversation it really is. I will say this. We can trace back our lineage as far back as we can try to keep going. But I'm going to say this. If we're students of history, history is going to lead us back to Africa. If we look at history and we look at whatever y'all want to consider as Black people, I'm going to say people who look like me, my skin tone, okay? You will find us in Europe. You will find us in Asia. You will find us in South America. You will find us here. I never once tonight ever said that we were not a part of the New Americas. I said we migrated here and that we needed to respect the timeline in which we are talking to these things. We are everywhere. We are indigenous to this planet through our migrations around this planet. I also included sources. Now, Dulcinea didn't like my sources now, but I did come tonight with the sources, was showing that there was genetic markers that link us all together. And so if the Chinese people can point back to Africa and some of the South Americans can point back to Africa, there's actually a book. I couldn't pull it up here, but I have it on my phone. It's The Unexpected Faces in Ancient America from 1500 BC to AD 1500. Now, I don't think I can show the picture's not going to show up on my camera, but again, I'm going to say the name again: Unexpected Faces in Ancient America. We have to do our due diligence, but keep looking and researching. I don't mind a different argument. I don't mind someone saying, no, I'm going by who my parents are. You should. You should. That's your direct connection. But when we are looking for a historical one, we are going to surpass your time frame in which any of these so-called things are looking at right now. And that's just it, because everyone kept records a different way and there's different things to look at. So I'm not going to discredit anything that she's saying, but I am going to say start at the beginning. Start at the beginning. Go back as far as you personally can. And for those who were like, oh, somebody said something about go back to Africa, I think that if people want to go to Africa, they should. And if those who don't. Trust me, it's not that serious. Make a home for yourself wherever you feel comfortable, wherever your spirit is connected to. But to sit there and deny that is a no. Science has already proved that the Black woman has the longest and oldest mitochondrial gene on the planet. We are the mothers to this society. We are the mothers to the planet. And so, I'm just going to stand on that. And I hope that people continue to do their own journey. Check out the book, The Sibyls. I hope that me and Sister Napaka have that conversation around that book one day. And you claiming you ain't got no African ancestry. Oh, that wasn't for me. I'm sorry. I thought it was for me. I'm like, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. And when we read our sources, we do need to read and look for understanding and comprehension. It's an important factor. We got babies that are coming up behind us. Like I said, I teach my students all the time. Go back and look through the sources. Wikipedia is not a source. Anything that can be altered by us and all that stuff, that's not a source. We can do better than that. And so let's not fear our Black skin. Let's embrace it. It's all throughout the entire planet. Love who you are. Okay, love who you are, love who you've been, and show respect to our ancestors.
Wait, sis, can you say
before us.
that one more time? Repeat it for the people in the back. The Wikipedia. What you say about Wikipedia?
Wikipedia is not a source. It drives me insane. I don't like Wikipedia as a source.
Me too.
Okay. I thought I was about to say, I was like, wait, what you trying to say, Dulcinea?
No.
I
I was just a lot of people on here use it, but because it can be altered, it's not a credible source. I agree as far as it. And yeah, I think it's awesome. And there's a lot of people that say that they are teachers, and I feel sorry for their students. I definitely do not feel sorry for your students. I know you're going to have them question. They're going to be able to do their own research and come to their own conclusions. And I think that's an important part, because wherever we lead to, we need to get back to people that are children getting to the points where they have their own patents. They are teaching the math. They are discovering things, and not that we're relying on everybody else to tell us who we are, what we are, when we can do it. So I respect that.
Facts. I love it. And I stand in agreement with that.
All right. Thank y'all. I appreciate y'all coming in. Peace and blessings to both of y'all.
Peace and blessings.
Peace,
Good
y'all.
night.
Good night.